share this with you today. There is a lot happening for the entire year, actually. This year is the World Telecoms Development Conference. I believe that's in Baku, Azerbaijan. That's a meeting that we support. Of course, we'll be having our ICT week as well in Jamaica, but I think that's a little later on in September, so we'll brief you fully on that later. But for today, we have a very exciting lineup of speakers. We're going to be talking about our Spectrum Management Task Force meeting. The Canto will be here to talk about their meeting as well, their AGM. We have, of course, the Trinidad and Tobago IGF. We're pleased to be partners with them. They'll be hosted here in hybrid format in Trinidad and Tobago, and Jacqueline Morris will be here to tell us all about that. Then we're going to be talking about Smart Seas. Tariq Mohammed will be presenting the ITU Council Working Groups, Michelle Brell, I won't go through everything, but in the interest of time, but we also have the CTO Digital Week taking place in Gibraltar. We're pleased that the Secretary General of the CTO will be joining us here in the CTU studio, let's call it that, and in person to tell you about that. And GSMA, the UNODC Office on Drugs and Crime, will be telling us about their upcoming training on ransomware for Caribbean first responders and investigators. We've partnered with them in the past, and we're pleased to be able to do so again in 2025. Albert Daniels from ICANN will be telling us about ICANN 82 taking place in the United States. We have a webinar coming up on the complementary currencies. Our partners, Carib Coin, who are CTU members as well, will be telling us all about that. And we have pleased also to be joined by the ITU, Mr. Cleveland Thomas, to tell us about the Global Youth Summit taking place in Cuba and a few other ITU meetings. And lastly, in our segment on the Global Industry Watch, we're talking about new developments in the satellite industry and also the subsea cable resilience. The International Cable Protection Committee will be telling us all about the work that's being done by that body to protect the submarine cable systems. And of course, the ITU has recently established an international advisory body on submarine cable resilience. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Nigel Casimir, Deputy SG, to tell us about the prep meeting for the World Telecoms Development Conference that will be a virtual meeting hosted by the CTU. Mr. Casimir.
Thank you very much, SG. And as you mentioned, there is a lot that we would need to get through this afternoon. So we try to get through without further ado. The first meeting, significant meeting for the quarter, is 24th of January, our first significant one, which is the Caribbean prep meeting for the WTDC 25. Right. The WTDC, the World Telecom Development Conference, of course, is a standing conference of the ITU held every 4 years to determine the ITUD, that's the development sector's program over the upcoming 4-year period. The last one was actually held in 2022 because of a delay caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. And that really took us up to 2025, and we should be back on our regular 4-year schedule from this year forward. This World Telecom Development Conference, or the big global conference of the development sector, is especially important to us as developing countries because its subject matter and outcomes focus on development, and through that, on developing countries and their needs. So we need to take advantage of the opportunity of this special focus of the ITU on developing countries to identify what our current and urgent needs are, such that we can be sure that the ITU makes appropriate allowance and provides the resources that we would need to meet our needs. So this conference, as SG mentioned earlier, is to take place in Baku, the Republic of Azerbaijan, quite a long way away, the 17th to the 28th of November. However, there is a whole lot of preparations that take place ahead of all of these global conferences And because the WTDC is so important to us as developing countries, we need to be aware of everything that's taking place and where we need to make our inputs even before in the run-up to the WTDC. So this is this table that is being shared right now gives a summary of the Americas region preparations that are carded to take place. I'll leave the top line out for now. We're at March 24th of January. I'll talk about that subsequent. But that is pointing to, in the immediate term, to the ITU's regional preparatory meeting for WTDC 25. Between February and I believe it is April, there will be a regional preparatory meeting of the ITU for WTDC in each of the 6 ITU global regions. The Caribbean belongs to the Americas region, and our Americas region preparatory meeting takes place actually officially the 1st and 2nd of April, and it will be preceded by an ITU sort of a preparatory event for it called the Regional Development Forum for the Americas. So, and then that regional preparatory meeting for WTDC will be followed by, or it's taking place in conjunction with, a meeting of CTEL, the Inter-American Telecoms Commission, Permanent Consultative Committee 1, which deals with telecoms matters. And that will follow basically 3rd and 4th April. So essentially from the 31st of March to the 4th of April, all of these meetings will take place in Asunción, Paraguay, all in preparation for the, well, basically to help the Americas region put together its proposals for the global WTDC. So for us in the Caribbean, we are looking forward to making influential, significant input into the agenda of the Americas heading into WTDC. So in order to allow us to do that coherently, the CTU is arranging a preparatory meeting on the 24th of January that will focus on, yes, making appropriate input into these preparatory meetings, but also with the long-term focus of influencing the global WTDC at the end of the year. So it is important because WTDC is important to developing countries. It is important because the Americas region must appropriately represent itself on the global stage. And it is important because the Caribbean has to have its voice heard in the Americas and at the global stage. So these dates are quite important. I wouldn't get into too much details of the preparatory meetings and CTEL meetings and so on, because we have other speakers in this afternoon's program who will address those things. I just want to point out under funding opportunity in the column there that there are limited ITU fellowships available for the RDF, that's the Regional Development Forum, and the Regional Preparatory Meeting as well. So, and actually the deadline for applying for that is the 11th of February. The ITU would provide 1 full fellowship or 2 partial fellowships per member state. So, and all our CTU members are eligible to apply for ITU fellowships for situations like this. So at the preparatory meeting, we'll talk a bit more about that, but it is important to come to the CTU preparatory meeting so that we could examine these things in a lot more detail, and each of our member states could make their voice heard in putting forward their priorities. So quickly, what the objectives of the 24th meeting on the 24th are, and this is a virtual meeting that we will be holding. It will be to enable common briefing of CTU member states and stakeholders on matters of WTDC 25. We should have input from the ITU in that meeting as well. We want to identify and agree on common Caribbean priorities. We were quite successful in the last cycle in putting together a list of Caribbean priorities, which went successfully into the CTEL discussions and will incorporate integrated into the CTEL and Inter-American proposals going into the last WTDC. We want to do that again, and we want to be a little more successful even. And we also want to, in the Caribbean meeting, we'll be facilitating substantial and effective Caribbean contributions to these things going forward. My last point is there is a pre-meeting preparation that needs to be done. The CTU has put out a member notice last week about this upcoming prep meeting, and there were some documents associated with it. You are asked to review the documents, consider your own national situations in terms of what are the priorities you have nationally that you feel need to be recognized and taken forward into the regional and international arena. And there is an opportunity as well for you to submit to the CTU Secretariat those ideas beforehand, because in the notice that went out and the documents that have been circulated, there is a feedback form that you can use to send it into us. The earlier we get it, is the better that we'll be able to incorporate and incorporate it into a regional position, right? So, and very last thing is on the CTU website, there is a web page for this CTU preparatory meeting. And on that web page, there is the document that would have been circulated, which we call a brief for the prep meeting that has all the documents and so on associated. So you are urged to prepare and participate in that meeting on the 24th, and keep an eye on the CTU website for the documents related. Stop there, SG.
Thank you very much. You're well within your time. So thank you for that. And just to support you in saying that we need to have a strong coordination and representation at the WTC. It's one of the critical sectors for us, the ITU Development Bureau, and therefore conference happens every 4 years, as you pointed out. And I want to encourage the full participation of all of the CTU member states. So we're going to move straight on to Canto, one of our very key and strategic partners here in Caribbean, to tell us about their annual general meeting. And to do that, we have Mr. Jimmy Rodriguez, who's the Finance and Administrative Manager of Canto. Jimmy, over to you.
Thank you, Rodney, and good afternoon. Well, Happy New Year to everyone who I haven't seen so far, which is probably all of you. So Happy New Year 2025, looking for bigger and better things, greater things happening for each one of you. So I'm here, as mentioned, inviting you to attend our next event, Canto Connect, and our 41st AGM. This is going to be held in Curacao, as you can tell by the colorful schematic at the top. Those buildings are well known with Curacao. We'll be at the Renaissance Wind Creek Curacao Resort, and from the 26th to 28th of January, so in a couple of weeks' time, we will be in the business of the event. It's short notice, but I'm sure you'll be able to make it if you haven't already planned to do so. And just get right. So just a brief as to why you should attend the Canto Connect 2025. One, insights and content. We'll have a wide range of panelists and topics being discussed from industry leaders that will be with whatever's happening currently in the industry. So encourage you to look forward to that. Of course, community and networking goes hand in hand with Canto in terms of bringing all these different stakeholders together in one place: ministers, regulators, operators, and vendors, all cohabitating in the same space, and being able to convey their ideas, thoughts, and plans going forward. We will have an exhibition as usual, where it's an opportunity for a company to display their wares, display their products, display their services, and for attendees to be able to interact with them. And of course, entertainment. This is an opportunity to come to Curacao and experience the food, the music, and the hospitality that you could expect from the island of Curacao. I should point out that at this time, Curacao has been one of the original members of Canto, the founding members of Canto, and has been a strong influence on the development of the organization. But for some reason, we haven't been there in 8 years. So this is a return and setting it straight. So we're back in Curacao in 2025. Just to show some of our speakers at Canto Connect, also, we have the Minister, Honorable Charles Cooper, Minister of Traffic, Transport, Urban Planning, and Telecommunications. So he has a lot on his plate, as well as Mr. Kurt Belfour, the CEO of the Regulatory Authority of Curacao. So they'll be representing the country at the event, and as well, familiar faces to all of you, Mr. Uwin Williams, CEO at the NTCRC in St. Kitts, and Mr. Cleveland Thomas, the ITU Caribbean representative, also well known, and so you can look forward to coming to hear what they will share. Just a snapshot of some of the major topics. We have some foundations for a gigabit society. As you know, the Caribbean has this opportunity in time through the ICT platforms that are being developed and need for data and so forth. So it would allow us to foster prosperity and growth in this area, where we could have reliable high-speed internet and strong digital infrastructure in place, as well as Caribbean islands surrounded by water generally. We have the need to ensure the sustainability of the undersea cables that bring that connection to us, to our islands. And staying on the water, we were discussing smart seas and also early warning systems for all. Just a acknowledgement to our sponsors and exhibitors. Our co-host will be the Regulatory Authority of Curacao. Our platinum sponsors include the Bankai Group, One Communications, and Bravo. And you can see all the other sponsors listed here. Thanks to them and to our exhibitors, and of course our partners, GSME and Curacao FinTech Association, who will make some contributions there at the event as well. Just a brief look back at last year's event. Was in Port of Spain, Trinidad, at the Hyatt Regency. We had over 280 attendees representing 50 plus companies. And within there, we had 50 plus C-level attendees and 30 plus regional operators. We also had 25 speakers across 20 sessions and 29 sponsors and exhibitors at that time. So this event was primarily our AGM, the annual general meeting of the organization. But over the years, it has grown where it's more of a conference, or well, a mini conference, but a conference on its own. And we will have our AGM activities at the end on the last day. So mostly our attendees last year came from the Caribbean, but as you can see on the map, we have attendees coming from all parts of the world. I know some folks here from the Pacific, so looking forward to you joining us on this map when I present next year. Cross-section, the demographic of attendees, 51% operators. So we are operator-based, primarily organization, association. We also have members among the ICT industry, regulators, consultants, and other sectors are part of Canto. And so here, as you can see, the split across the attendance at last year's event. But looking forward into Curacao, I repeat again the dates, 26th to 28th. So that starts on a Sunday and ends on a Tuesday. In a couple of weeks' time, I will drop a link for registration in the chat when I'm finished presenting. So anyone needs to get a quick link to our website, you can see it there, but you could also go directly to www.canto.org. And if you need to contact us in any particular area, here's our number, email, and for specific inquiries, you can look at between Nicole, Andrea, and Janelle at our Secretariat. For those who don't know, we're based in Port of Spain, but we are Caribbean-based organization. So that's it for now. So back over to our host.
Thank you, Jimmy. There is a comment here in the chat, comment question here to respond. It would be nice to see a space at Canto for the inclusion of the end users who are in effect the most important stakeholders. Well, this is from Deirdre Williams. So you can respond in the chat or you can respond on camera. It's your call.
Yes, that's possible. Thinking back, it it depends, I guess, on as the agenda is set and who's willing to come and share. But attendance is open for everyone, including end users. And we try to move around the event year after year, so we engage citizens of different islands to come and to interact, and there are opportunities to do so during the event.
All right, thank you, Jimmy, and thanks for the question and comment, Deirdre. And we want to encourage the online participants to share with us your questions or comments. Thank you. We'll go straight to Jacqueline Morris, who's the chair of the Trinidad and Tobago Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group, TTMAG, to tell us about the TTIGF, the 9th annual TTIGF. It's the first IGF that takes place in the Caribbean. We're pleased, as I mentioned, to partner with Jackie. Please go ahead.
Great, thank you very much, Rodney. So I don't have any slides, but I'll just talk to you. So the TTIGF, as Rodney says, is the 9th one. It's been held every year since 2017. And it's the first IGF on the calendar, not just the Caribbean calendar, but the global calendar. Our theme, the theme for the TTIGF, usually follows the theme for the global IGF, which this year was building our multi-stakeholder digital future. The IGF is valued as a resource for networking with peers, a forum for sharing information and experiences, and a non-judgmental venue for members to openly discuss their challenges and perspectives. It is hosted by the Trinidad and Tobago Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group, also known as the TTMAG, and this is an independent entity created for the promotion and development of best practice policy standards for the .TT CCTLD first, and also the local internet ecosystem in the interest of the internet community. The TTMAG aims to follow the mandate of the United Nations Secretary General to maximize the opportunity for open, inclusive dialogue and exchange of ideas on internet governance-related issues, to create opportunities to share best practices and experiences, to identify emerging issues and bring them to the attention of the relevant bodies and the general public, to contribute to capacity building for internet governance, and to facilitate inclusive, productive discussions on internet-related public policy issues from a general perspective while involving all stakeholders. So the audience for this event includes various stakeholders in the multi-stakeholder model. So the academic community, the technical community / ICT civil society, general civil society, commercial, business, government, also students and youth, and, well, in general, all internet users, those end users that Deirdre talks about. This year, it's going to be in a hybrid mode, and we will have sessions focusing on cybersecurity, digital finance, climate resilience, education, and also our youth forum. And registration is open, so I'll give you information about that at the end. So what I was going to do is take you through a brief rundown of the agenda. And the opening day is January 30th, and we will be online. We have Sally Wentworth, CEO of the Internet Society, down for a keynote speech, as well as some others. And then our first session will be on cybersecurity in Trinidad and Tobago. And he will be, and this is Ajmal Nasir. He will be exploring the critical role of standards and frameworks, such as ISO 27001, NIST 800-53, and COBIT 2019 in safeguarding digital ecosystems. So the idea is that we're going to talk about controls, strategies, and recommendations tailored for Trinidad and Tobago's cybersecurity landscape, secure software development practices, and the importance of technologies like SSL, TLS, is WordPress secure, and benefits of using .tt domains. The second session is a discussion on AI in education, and that will be moderated by myself. And it's about navigating the future. It's really going to feature Lev Gornick from Arizona State University. That is one of the major education institutions leading the way in incorporating AI into education globally. And also Dr. Andrew Hunt from UE, our own Five Islands campus, which is doing similar work in the Caribbean. And what I'm aiming for with that one is to explore the impact of AI in the learning system, redefining learning objectives, transforming the role of educators, and also dealing with critical ethical considerations, which includes the potential for AI to exacerbate existing educational disparities between the global north, the global south, between areas that are fully connected, areas that are not yet connected, that sort of thing. And also how AI can be used to cultivate uniquely human skills such as critical thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence. And the last session for day one is the IGF open session. This is a space for discussion of all things internet governance. Last year, topics that were raised included internet blocking, the Global Digital Compact, and cybercrime. Day two, the morning, features the Youth Forum. They will be discussing bullying in the cyber age and examining how digital technologies have transformed the nature, impact, and reach of bullying. Also, the unique challenges faced by youth in navigating online spaces, the psychological and emotional toll of cyberbullying, and investigate strategies for prevention, intervention, and creating a safer online environment for all. The Friday afternoon sessions, that's hybrid. We do have a limit on the in-person participation, but the remote will be available as well. And one of them will be FinTech as a catalyst for digital inclusion in Trinidad and Tobago. That's going to explore the transformative role of financial technology in promoting digital inclusion across Trinidad and Tobago. We're going to talk about how FinTech solutions can bridge the gap for underbanked and unbanked populations, because especially right now, the central bank recently posted some data that showed us that our unbanked population is increasing over time. It's gone from, I think, 20% in 2020 to 25% unbanked in Trinidad and Tobago. We talk about enhancing financial literacy and creating opportunities for economic growth. The challenges of adoption of FinTech, including accessibility, regulatory frameworks, digital literacy, and consider success stories and innovative approaches. We'll also have a session on digital technology for disaster resilience. So that will discuss the use of digital technologies for disaster prediction, prevention, emergency response, and recovery. Now, we know that the Caribbean region is uniquely vulnerable to a range of natural disasters. And in recent years, digital technologies have emerged as powerful tools for enhancing disaster resilience across phases from prediction to emergency response and recovery. And we will also have a panel hosted by the CTU, which I do not have the details of, but I can ask Rodney to jump in here and give us a brief thing of the CTU panel, if you can.
Sure, absolutely. That's the one for the CCTLD managers, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've been talking about the coordination of the CCTLD, the country code top level domain managers in the Caribbean. So that's the .tt, .bb, .jm, and so on. And how can we better support them in terms of sharing best practices, common challenges, and so on. And where within ICANN they can get support through the CCNSO. And that's been done along the CTU, along with Nick.PR, Pablo Rodriguez, who will be supporting us in coordinating the agenda and getting the ICANN experts on that call, along with encouraging the participation of our CCTLD managers from the Caribbean, of course, including .TT. So we'll be trying to finalize that today.
Great. And yeah, I think that would be it. That's the last panel. And we look forward to your participation in the 9th TTIGF. If you have any questions or suggestions, I can put our email and our website in the chat for everyone to access. But the website's really easy to remember. It's igf.tt. And thank you.
Thank you very much. I do see a hand from Mohammed. Do you wish to ask your question on camera? And is it for TTIGF? If so, you have 2 seconds to confirm. Go ahead, Fareed.
Hi, good afternoon. Do my presentation or are we waiting for
No, I saw a raised hand, so I'll
question?
provide a space for the question. If not, we can come back, read. Yeah, so, okay.
All right, Tariq, we were trying to see if Fareed wanted to raise, oh, he said go ahead. Okay, all right, very good. So moving along in our agenda, we did see smart Cs appear on the Canto list of topics to be addressed at their meeting. And we're going to get a little bit more about smart Cs right now, because in early February, we're going to have what would probably be the final set of activities associated with the Smart Seas project. I probably should get too much into it. I'll let the speaker, Mr. Tariq Mohammed, who is the project officer on this project for the ITU, let him actually get into the specifics of it, and if anything, we could ask some questions there. Tariq, of course, is also chair and coordinator of the Caribbean Youth IGF, which is spawned out of the CTU CIGF, and he's also our co-coordinator of the fledgling Caribbean ICT Youth Net. So he's quite well involved in all things ICT. And Tariq, over to you to talk about the upcoming events.
Thank you, Nigel, and good day, everyone. So once again, my name is Tariq Mohammed. I'm a consultant under the Smart Seas Toolkit for Disaster Resilience project under the ITU, CTU, and TAT. So today we're going to talk a bit about the project and about some of the activities that we have coming up in just a few weeks in the first week of February. So, of course, we know that globally as well as regionally, we've done a lot in terms of achieving universal and meaningful connectivity for all. But unfortunately, I'm here to say that there are still a number of vulnerable populations that remain excluded. And these forms of exclusion are in terms of both affordability as well as accessibility. Now, to bridge these gaps in affordable, accessible ICTs for all, it really requires the actions and inputs and collaboration amongst a number of agencies, which include policymakers, regulators, service providers, even down to the end user side of things. So the previous speaker actually mentioned that ICTs play a critical role in disaster management across all 4 of its phases. That's true on land as well as at sea, which is what we're here to talk about today. Why at sea? Because fishing is considered one of the world's most dangerous jobs, with thousands of lives being lost in this sector annually. Small-scale fishers who ply their trade in these small wooden on-deck vessels that we call pirogues are most exposed and are highly vulnerable to a number of disasters out at sea, ranging from piracy to adverse weather conditions. Small-scale fishers make up approximately 94% of the global fishing fleet and are responsible for just under half of the fish that's being produced on a daily basis. In terms of their vulnerability, they are vulnerable both from their lives as well as livelihoods. And of course, ICTs play a critical role in both. But simply having ICTs is not enough. What is really essential is having an enabling environment to support affordable, accessible ICTs. So that's where the Smart Seas project comes into play, which is a joint initiative of the ITU, CTU, and TAT, supported by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. This project really sets out to increase the resilience and ultimately preserve the lives of our highly vulnerable small-scale fishers, with an emphasis on the enabling environment in this first phase. So the project itself currently covers 4 CTU territories. So that's Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent and Grenadines, and Barbados, which fall within Trinidad and Tobago's search and rescue region. Within this red bounded polygon we see here, Trinidad and Tobago is responsible for the rescue coordination at sea for all 4 of these countries within this area. The project itself focuses on 4 thematic dimensions, which include policy and regulation, operations, capacity, and technology. And though these are being instantiated through this niche and through this scope, it's really intended to be transferable to other sectors of underserved and vulnerable communities, while being extensible to the rest of the Caribbean region as well as worldwide. The Smart Seas project comprises 4 main outputs: a gap analysis, an online Smart Seas toolkit, the procurement of VHF equipment for our beneficiary countries, and an agenda for accessible communications at sea. The outcomes, which are the short-term goals, are to have a capacitated ecosystem as well as strengthening the enabling environment, while the impacts, which are the long-term goals, are for disaster-resilient fishers. I'm here today to really talk about 2 key activities that we see here: the agenda for accessible communications at sea, as well as developing this capacitated ecosystem. So this year, we'll be having what we're calling SSF Week, or Small Scale Fishers Week, which is taking place in the first week of February from Monday the 3rd to Thursday the 6th of February. On Monday, we'll be having a virtual agenda validation workshop, which seeks to bring together and have a virtual stakeholder consultation on a report that we're developing titled An Agenda for Accessible Communications at Sea for Small-Scale Fishers. Whereas on the Tuesday to the Thursday of that week, we'd be having an in-person VHF DSC radio training for fishers. So let's talk about both of these workshops really briefly. The agenda validation workshop is centered around a document that we would like to publish called An Agenda for Accessible Communications at Sea for Small-Scale Fishers. It focuses on the current state of communications at sea, as well as what we are defining as accessible communications for fishers. And why do we use fishers as the example? It's because they represent the baseline for which communications should be made available. So once they are covered, all other mariners should be able to access communications. Now, recognizing that we aren't exactly at the state of accessible communications yet, that means that gaps exist. And these are being focused thematically in terms of the communications as well as the corresponding data. Most particularly within the communications, we're looking at the devices, the services, as well as the enabling environment, from which we will then be developing a number of priorities to fill the gaps across the sectors and stakeholder groups. A number of agencies are involved and have a real stake to play in this sector. And these include, but are not limited to, manufacturers, service providers, regulators and policymakers, fisheries agencies, host stations, entrepreneurs, research and academia, and the civil society. And so we're inviting all of these agencies to come together and join us virtually on Monday, the 3rd of February, 2025, in the morning, 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. To participate in this workshop. And so if you're interested, you can scan this QR code here to register, but I'll also be sending the links in the chat for your easy access. So quite apart from this test taking place on the Monday, on Tuesday to Thursday of that week, we'll be having a radio training. And the registration for that is also on the bottom here if you'd like to scan while I'm presenting. So this workshop is an in-person one taking place at the Telecoms Authority of Trinidad and Tobago's head office in Secretariat, Trinidad. And it sets out to strengthen the capacity of small-scale fishers and other key agencies with respect to the maritime radios. These radios are the baseline for communications at sea. Similarly to how we rely on phones on land, this is essentially your phone out at sea. And so over this 3 days, there is a lot that we'll be covering as part of this free training. On the first day, we'll be doing an introduction to radio, going through a bit of the theory, as well as unboxing the radios and getting the feel for it, before we then go on to some practical exercises and then radio and practice, where we are having a number of stakeholders come together and collaborate and present and share their different views, whether it be from the Coast Guard or disaster management agencies. Tips and tricks for the fishers to work together with these agencies to overall support their safety at sea. And so the target for this workshop are fisherfolk, coast stations, disaster management agencies, and we also open it to regulators and service providers and anyone else who would like to get free training on radio. So that's really it in terms of what we have coming up. As Nigel mentioned, this is one of the last major activities under the project, which is coming to an end at the end of June of this year. So we're just trying to finalize the outputs, which such as the agenda that we have here that's been going on for a little while now, as well as have a last set of training before we wrap up. So with that, I just want to thank you all for having me here today. If you need any further information or if you'd like to contact us, my email is on the screen here, as well as a QR code in case if you'd like to get some more information on the project. We have a brief out right now that can be viewed here. So thank you, and I'll just like to pass back over to Nigel. Nigel?
Yes, thank you, Tariq. Not seeing any questions coming up on the chat. Now seeing comments coming through. Will there be a training for maintenance and installation of the radios? This is also important. Or is it just operation of the radios?
So can I just take this really quickly? It's not on the maintenance and installation of the radios. So these are not the ones that will be installed. These are the handheld radios that look similar to the walkie-talkies. So really, installation isn't a problem as they are handheld and mobile. Whereas maintenance would be best keeping on, best practices on how to keep them safe and, maintain them personally. So not as though there are radio installations on our sites that need specific installation and maintenance requirements, if that helps.
Okay, I'll leave you to answer this one from, I think it's Carlton Samuels. He's saying, this project brings to mind work done by our colleague and long-time collaborator, Kim Malavu. Is she an informed party here?
Yes, Carlton. Dr. Malu is the expert advisor for this project, actually. So she's very much involved in it.
And she likes to add pro bono.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. All right. So thank you very much then, Tariq, and we'll carry on. I'll hand back to the SG.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And we're going to move to Mrs. Michelle Grelbureau, the International Relations Advisor for the Utilities Regulation and Competition Authority, the Bahamas. So that's IRCA. And she will tell us about the ITU Council work groups and expert groups taking place in Geneva. Michelle, welcome. Thanks for joining and sharing with us.
Thank you, Rodney, and thank you to the CTU for the invitation to speak today on the upcoming cluster of ITU Council working group meetings. And a pleasant good afternoon and Happy New Year to everyone present today. As a brief contextual background, some of you may know that the ITU is governed by the Plenipotentiary Conference and the ITU Council. The Plenipotentiary Conference meets every 4 years to determine the strategic direction of the Union and its activities, while the ITU Council meets every year in between plenipotentiary conferences, and they ensure that the Union's activities, policies, and strategies fully respond to the rapidly evolving telecommunications environment. Now, Council working groups and expert groups support the work of the Council by addressing specific technical, strategic, and policy issues that may require detailed examination from time to time. So these groups provide the Council with informed inputs to guide decisions. Participation in these meetings, therefore, offers an opportunity for active involvement in the ITU decision-making process. The upcoming cluster of Council working group meetings, which take place from February 10th to 21st, is the second set to be held in preparation for this June's Council session. There are currently 9 active Council working groups and expert groups. I will spend the rest of my presentation providing a brief overview of the matters under consideration by each of these, based on the agendas that have already been published. However, you may note that participation is usually open to representatives of both member states and sector members. In the case of the Council Working Group for Internet and Languages, only member states can participate. In contrast, the Council Working Groups on Child Online Protection and the Informal Expert Group for WTPF encourage participation by nominated experts. Some groups also conduct open online consultation on specific matters where they require input from a wider audience. So first up is the Council Working Group on Finance and Human Resources. This group normally has the heaviest agenda of all the Council Working Groups. At present, there are several key matters being considered. At the next meeting, the group will consider the outputs of the work of 2 online correspondence groups. The first is a terms of reference for a review of the regional presence to facilitate the council reporting on that matter to the next plenipotentiary conference. And the second is a proposed framework for managing fully virtual meetings as well as physical meetings with remote participation. Other matters to be reviewed include a methodology for assessing the financial implications of conference proposals, decisions, and resolutions. As you would imagine, this is important so that council is able to understand the impact of decisions being taken on the financial resources of the organization. There would also be an update on the infamous headquarters premises project and also an update on the ITU's transformation roadmap implementation. There'll also be an update on the 2024 budget implementation, the draft budget for 2026-2027, as well as a presentation on the draft financial plan for the period 2028 to 2031. With the Secretariat's support, the Council Working Group on the Strategic and Financial Plan is tasked with developing the Strategic and Financial Plan for the period 2028 to 2031, which will be considered by the next plenipotentiary conference in 2026. At this upcoming meeting, the group will consider the online consultation results. That's the consultation on the current strategic and financial plans. It will also begin its review of a number of factors that will impact the new strategic and financial plan. One of these is the Secretariat's proposal to review the preliminary amount of the contributory unit. This obviously has an impact on membership fees. A virtual consultation on this matter will be held this Wednesday for those interested in learning more about the proposal. It should be noted that Council will fix the preliminary amount of the contributory unit for the 28-2031 period at its Council session this June, and will subsequently invite member states to announce their provisional class of contribution by the end of 2025. The Council Working Group on the Internet will receive an update at the next meeting from the Secretariat on ITU Internet-related activities with respect to Internet protocol-based networks, the ITU's role in Internet policy issues, the role of administration in managing internationalized domain names, promoting deployment of IPv6 and OTTs. It will also discuss the results of the ongoing consultation on the role of public policy in promoting the multilingualism of the Internet. Although the online consultation deadline is today, there is still an opportunity to participate in an in-person consultation meeting on 11th February or to submit a written contribution to that meeting. I have to confirm whether that consultation meeting on 11th February would also be available for remote participation. If you are interested in or in the process of developing a national child online protection strategy, the Council Working Group on Child Online Protection is an excellent forum for raising awareness and sharing best practices by member states, sector members, and other key stakeholders. CARICOM member states or stakeholders who are in the process of developing or implementing national child online protection strategies are encouraged to participate and contribute. This Council Working Group meeting will receive an update on the ITU's Child Online Protection initiatives, as well as an update on the implementation of the Global Child Online Protection Program. The Council Working Group on WSIS and SDGs is currently focused on preparations for the second and final WSIS Plus 20 high-level event in July this year, including reviewing the feedback received from the open consultation process that is inviting input to shape the event's agenda and program. The group is also reviewing, among other things, achievements and challenges in implementing the Geneva Plan of Action, the alignment of the WSIS process with the 2030 SDG agenda, and the future of WSIS given the recently adopted Global Digital Compact. At the last Council Working Group meeting, it was recommended that the Secretariat organize information sessions at the upcoming Regional Development Forum that I believe Nigel referenced earlier, to highlight the importance of the WSIS Plus 20 review and the GDC. The ITU is also working with other WSIS Action Line facilitators to develop a work plan to support the GDC follow-up. The next World Telecommunications Policy Forum will take place in 2026. This informal expert working group is chaired by none other than CTU Secretary General Rodney Taylor. The group is developing the draft ITU Secretary General's report that will inform discussions and policy recommendations that will be produced at the WTPF 26. This session of the informal expert group will review and consider inputs received from a consultation on the second draft of the Secretary General's report. The sub-themes of the forum, as you can see here, bridging digital divides, space connectivity, green digital transformation, resilience of telecoms and ICTs, and strengthening ICT-centric innovation ecosystems and entrepreneurship are all relevant to regional ICT policy agendas. So participation in the work of this group is definitely encouraged. The consultation on the second draft report ends today, but there will be further opportunities to contribute to the development of this report during 2025. The terms of reference of the expert group on the International Telecommunications Regulations were revised in 2023 to continue reviewing the ITRs, having regard for new trends and emerging issues such as AI and the provision of terrestrial services using non-geostationary satellite technology. The current use and relevance of the ITRs are also being considered. In October, differing views were presented on the need to review the ITRs. The position of some developed countries was that commercial agreements are replacing the need for ITRs in certain jurisdictions. However, this position was challenged by a few developing countries that noted that the ITRs were still being used as a reference for national regulatory frameworks and the inclusion of relevant text in other bilateral and multilateral agreements. Because of this, those countries stressed the importance of reviewing the treaty to update it as a standardized framework for international telecommunications. So this is another expert group that persons may be interested in participating in. The expert group on Decision 482 is currently reviewing various aspects of the ITU's approach to cost recovery for processing satellite network filings. The list here only captures some of the elements under review. The upcoming expert group meeting will review the Secretariat's recommendations on these matters and consider possible revisions to Decision 482. If you're interested in learning more about Decision 482, the ongoing review process, and how it may impact your organization, there's actually a virtual consultation scheduled for tomorrow, 14th January. And finally, the Council Working Group on Languages oversees the fair use of the Union's 6 official languages. The next meeting will consider the Secretariat's updates on related activities. It will also consider a report on the ITU's implementation of the Guide to Current and Future Practices in Multilingualism, and a report on the challenges and opportunities of the use of AI-powered interpretation. A few points to note in closing. If you're interested in participating in these meetings, an ITU Ties account is required both to register and to participate in the meetings. However, an authorized focal point must approve your Ties registration if you don't have an account already, as well as your registration for the individual meetings. You can also register for the group of meetings. Remote participation is possible. The CTU has established a coordination group for participation at the ITU Council Working Group meetings. The contact is Frank John with the CTU. And further details about the upcoming Council Working Group meetings are available on the ITU website. I will place the link in the chat shortly. Thank you to everyone for your attention.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Just looking to see if there are any questions that up, but I'm not seeing it right now.
let me just thank the, the youth network and the network of women for their support in helping us to cover these various work groups and expert groups, because as you can see, it's a lot of work involved, a lot of issues to be discussed. So we're leveraging the youth network, network of women. I just want to publicly thank you for your efforts so far. Thank you, Michelle.
Okay. Thanks. Let's move on. We're doing reasonably well, but I think it'll be a couple minutes time present. We switch now to spectrum management, and this is of course the important area that CTU started special focus on since 2005 when we established the Spectrum Management Task Force, the Spectrum Management Steering Committee. So the Spectrum Management Task Force meets 3 or 4 times a year, and the next meeting is scheduled for the 20th and 21st of February. And to tell us more about that is the chair of the Spectrum Management Task Force, Dr. Maria Myers Hamilton, who's managing director of the Spectrum Management Authority of Jamaica. And I'd like to invite Maria to take the floor. Tell us about Maria, to you.
Good morning, Nigel. Good morning, SG, Taylor, and everyone on the call. Nice seeing you. It has been really a very exciting time, and just coming back from CES, I have lots to share with the group. But let me start by just looking at the highlights from November 21, 2024, when we last met. We were talking about especially the satellite telecommunications, the unauthorized terminals, regulatory space surrounding the NGOs and the GSO satellites, and how to really manage spectrum and allocate it for FSS and MSS. We looked on the thematic areas, of course, our RFAT, which again, where it's in progress. A number of us have updated our NFATs based on the last WRC 23. We're looking how to harmonize our spectrum management policies, as again, Nigel alluded to. Emergency communications, I think Tariq spoke a little bit about what we're doing there, but we have to expand it a little bit more. Spectrum pricing is a critical component because, again, all of us are different. Even though we're Caribbean, our populations are different, and we have to hone in on what's the best pricing mechanism that we have to look at. Although we had a number of presentations run from Policy Tracker as well as Cullen in the past, we still have to come up with how we're going to be strategizing where that is concerned. And of course, I think, Nigel, you spoke a little bit about WRC 27 preparations, how we're going to look at getting the best outcome out of that event. And we start the pre-planning from now. Some of us, I know, depending on where it's going to be held, have the opportunity to maybe either go online, because a number of times we have online sessions, or we can send representatives if we can, which is the ideal thing, that we can share thoughts. Digital switchover on the broadcasting side is a big ticket item. And even the trending at CES, we see a lot of streaming services now competing with digital broadcasting over the top air. So again, there is kind of like a pivotal moment that we have to take in the next coming years. How do we approach over the top? And finally, maintaining the current information on our coordination, like cross-border interference. As in the case of Jamaica, we have to keep close alliances with both Cuba and Haiti to begin with. So we touch on many things. One of the things that we have to look at immediately is the whole matter of harmonization regulation for D2D services within our space, because D2D is here. And again, we turned off our phones, we see a satellite pop up. So a number of things that we wanted to look at is one, maybe conduct a survey to capture this information. Again, look at the current holdings on the NFAT, and again, look at the ranges and the overlaps between the various bands, and to make an inventory of international treaties or spectrum coordination agreements signed by our members, because all of us in our space have actually agreed to some initiatives, and we just have to look and see what that inventory looks like. We have to identify the regulatory gaps. So even though we are the same, we are different in terms of how we regulate in some instances. And so we have to find that way of just trying to harmonize. So there's a lot of work to be done there with the D2D in environment. As it relates to stakeholder engagement, Jamaica did quite a bit of stakeholder engagement, and we're going into another one, especially with the aeronautical band, because we find that between the broadcasters and the aeronautical band, it's a critical issue, and we have to make mention that we have to hold that very closely to our hearts and to just make certain that we're not overlapping. And I know in Trinidad and Tobago, there are some lessons learned from the recent oil spill as something that we maybe could look at with ESS, Earth Exploratory Satellite Services, the impact of that, and maybe suggest future collaborations where that is concerned. Finally, on the key outcomes and decisions, we agreed that we needed a working party group that will hone in on the WRC issues, that we are aligned in a better way and we understand the issues as at. I think we're on the next meeting in February, right, Nigel? We're going to have a meeting in February, an online meeting. So we are going to create that group and ensure that we have key persons who will hone in on the different areas within that space and allow us to focus better and to know when to vote and when not to vote. Again, to keep us in harmony. And members identified the CTU to reach out to ensure that the balance for regional representation. So all persons on this call, we're going to reach out to you. Please pull your technical people together that they can assist in terms of when we're going to be meeting. I know we have challenges because many of us are small in number, and again, it's not easy to pull one person to focus on an issue, but collectively we can. So we just need to have that type of membership and support. And again, we want to focus on the critical agenda items which are of regional importance, like for example, emergency communication, satellite is a must, and develop a structural plan for multi-country proposals with a clear leadership and a participation for all Caribbean countries. Because again, we can make a difference. We just need to step forward. And that is in a nutshell my update, SG, and on the matters that we spoke about. Hope I didn't go over my time. Thank you once again.
Well, you didn't go over. I could mention as well that Maria chairs the task force and the vice chair is Grenada, currently Mr. Timothy Scott, who is the coordinator of the NTRC. So they are the ones in the leadership positions now with the Spectrum and Task Force. And what usually happens is that in this first meeting as well, the action plan for the year is finalized. So that'll be all of the things that Maria mentioned would be discussed in order to bring to earth and agree on what the specific priorities will be for this year. So we look forward to that. You can follow work of the task force again also on the CTU website at ctu.int, and that's where we'll be putting up the notices and so on of the meeting in probably a couple of weeks' time. All right, so it's not available right now, but it will come in the near future. So I'll hand back to the SG now.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Nigel. And I'm pleased to welcome Ms. Bernadette Lewis, who will be doing the next presentation. She is the Secretary General of the Commonwealth Telecoms Organization and past Secretary General of the CTU as well. So very pleased to welcome her back home. She's here to tell us about CTO's Digital Week taking place in Gibraltar. And of course, growing up, we heard Rock Gibraltar. And in terms of your work here in the Caribbean, you've been solid like the Rock of Gibraltar. And we want to encourage you in your role there at CTO. So please.
Great. Thank you very much, Secretary General. It's my pleasure to be here again. And as the Secretary General said, that I wanted to just give a little overview on our upcoming Digital Week in Gibraltar. It's happening from the 24th to the 28th of February in 2025 at the Sunbourne Yacht Hotel Resort in Gibraltar. And just very, very briefly, I want to say that the CTO, we have a new strategic direction to support members of the Commonwealth in accelerating digital transformation. And our digital week is focused on digital transformation, and the theme is action for impact. And our first day, we're going to be looking at, we have a forum entitled Accelerating Digital Transformation. And we are going to be looking at the accelerants, things that can be done to really make accelerated digital transformation a reality. And primary, I'll just give you some bullet points. Visionary servant leadership. There's a session we're going to be talking about the need for political will, the assignment of a budget, the staying the course, over a period of time, because it doesn't happen overnight. We will also be looking at the issue or the need for multi-dimensional thinking, because the world is a very different place. We are dealing with the effects of climate change. We have individuals being more powerful than sovereign states. We're in an environment where literally anybody can play. And these are things that you would not have necessarily have had to deal with in the last century. But in this age, you have to be thinking about those things. So multidimensional thinking have to be innovative and expansive in how you approach the challenges that you face. And artificial intelligence is a very important enabler for accelerating digital transformation, and just from the point of view of having artificial intelligence, AI tools to enable you to make good decisions. And as I mentioned, the environment is complex. So you have the opportunity now to use these AI tools to enhance what you're doing, improve the decision-making, accelerate the decision-making, and accelerate digital transformation. And the last thing that we'll talk about on this day is the technology catapults. We've been talking about reaching the next billion people and so on for a long time. You have the technology to do it. Yes. And it is a case of harnessing that technology in innovative ways that would help the acceleration of digital transformation. So that is the first day on the 24th. The second day on the 25th is going to be a dialogue on connectivity and digital sovereignty. And we look at the whole evolution of terrestrial and satellite connectivity, the issues of data sovereignty. Who is collecting your information? Are you aware it's being connected? What are they doing with it? How do you protect that information? And especially since the CTO is an intergovernmental organization, the issue of data sovereignty and protecting those data sets that are important to your national security and so on and so forth. Having a conversation of those. We will be talking about the geopolitical implications. This is the national interests as far as connectivity is concerned. And the last thing is we will be presenting case studies in internet access and the role of the internet. We are in a hyper-connected environment. Globalization is just sweeping. And our members, we really feel, not just our members, you have to understand the role that the internet is playing and how you leverage the resources of the internet in order to move forward at pace. On the 26th and the 27th, we will have our second Ministerial Alliance for Digital Nations. And the theme for this is building the transformational ministerial mindset, because it takes leadership at the highest level of government and at the ministerial level. So that is the theme. And we will, at that session, of course, be talking about the technologies and how you could employ them to advance, connectivity, digital government, the digital economy. Those are some of the things we will be discussing on the 26th and 27th. And we will also have a ministerial caucus where we discuss inputs for WRC, where we agree in principle as regions or groups of countries to pursue particular projects. For example, one of the projects that we are looking at is the whole issue of legislation for digital transformation, because you could have the best program for adopting the technology, and the legislation presents impediments to the implementation. So we will be having a ministerial caucus. We're going to be discussing a lot of issues, cybersecurity, projects for cybersecurity. I mentioned the whole issue of the legislation, the regulatory environment. There are a number of public awareness and education. Those are things that we'll be discussing at length. And through that caucus, we hope to have a number of projects that the regions of the Commonwealth are engaged in that I would like to pursue. And these will be presented at the dialogue with heads of international organizations on the 20th. And also at that dialogue, we will not only say what we would like to do and discuss, those projects, but we would also have the opportunity to hear from the international community what things they are, what areas they are interested in pursuing with us, what their main focus points, right? What funding may be available for things we may not have discussed, and so on. So that is the 28th. So the theme for the week is Action for Impact. And I know that the Secretary General doesn't want to hear just talk on the whole talk. Yes, it is about, if we talk, we're discussing, we're having plans, we're going to execute those plans, because that is the only way we're going to have an impact. Registration is open. It's already open. The early bird fee is available. I think this might be the last week for our early bird fee. So please go ahead and register. Now, Digital Week Gibraltar is being held in advance of the GSMA Mobile World Congress, which is the following week. So Gibraltar is on that Iberian Peninsula, right next to Barcelona. You could almost walk, but you need to consider your travel and your visa requirements. Yes, you need to do that and do it early. They're neighbors. You could literally walk there, but for international travelers, it's not a walk in the park. So follow through with the visa requirements. And for more information, please visit the CTO, Secretary General. I'm still struggling with that. CTO website at www.cto.int, and you could scan our QR code there. And we're looking forward to seeing you. Join us there. We'd be very happy to welcome you to Gibraltar, and it is iconic. I went there to do the due diligence and preparatory meeting, and it was emotional because you've been hearing about the Rock of Gibraltar since primary school, and we will be. I think that's on Sunbourne Yacht Hotel. I think there may be 3 of those in the world. So it is iconic. So we invite you to join us in Gibraltar for Digital Week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well, SG Lewis, for sharing with us that information. If they come to the CTU, they will actually get the information as well, because we have a link there that will redirect them Once they look at the non-CTU events, they'll find the link to your event. Thanks for sharing with us. I don't see any questions. So please feel free to share the links. I'll ask my team to share the links to the registration there as well. Thank you for joining
Great,
us.
thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right.
A
I'm
joy
gonna
to be here.
hand over back to Nigel.
Yes, so we'll get back to more technical matters now. Within the Caribbean, of course, we have two organizations that handle numbering for the internet, the IP numbering. And that one is the American Registry for Internet Numbers, and the other is Latin American and Caribbean Internet Addresses Registry, which is LACNIC. Aaron and LACNIC. We're going to hear right now from Aaron. Aaron has policy meetings, multiple policy meetings every year. They offer fellowships to these and so on. And I would like to invite Mr. Nate Davis, who is the Senior Government Affairs Analyst at Aaron, to tell us about the upcoming Aaron 55 Public Policy and Members Meeting, and tell us also about the Aaron Fellowship Program. So, Nate, I invite you to take the floor.
Nate, are you hearing us? I think you've been promoted as a speaker just a minute ago. Yep.
Yes.
There you are.
Yes, we now see you, Nate. So, see if you can take the floor and.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, well, thank you. Good afternoon, Secretary General and Deputy Secretary General. Good afternoon, everybody, and good year. Good, Happy New Year. Wishing all of you health and prosperity in 2025. I just have a real brief presentation, a couple points that I want to make. And I'll start first with I'm looking a little bit further out in the future in April and wanted to mention in order to do that, I want to start first with the Aaron Fellowship Program. The Aaron Fellowship Program provides an opportunity for those that are interested in Internet Number Resource Policy as well as Internet governance to participate in the Aaron Policy Development Process Program. It's an interactive learning opportunity for individuals interested in learning more about the Internet Number Policy Development and Internet governance. I will be placing the link to apply for that program here after I speak. But the program generally takes place twice a year, before, during, and after an Aaron meeting. During that time, you'll receive in-depth introduction to Aaron and the policy development program process, in addition to being able to work with a mentor from the Aaron community, which includes not only the Aaron Advisory Council, but also some of the community industry experts. Applicants are selected by a committee to attend, and they'll attend the upcoming meeting that will be taking place in April. So I wanted to mention that today. Most importantly, the application period is open through the 27th of January. So there's 2 more weeks to apply for those fellowship applications. To date, we've had over 50 fellows participate in the program from the Caribbean. This is really about capacity building and internet governance and providing the opportunity where we can for the Caribbean to participate in the Aaron policy development process. Several of the fellows have gone on to serve on the Aaron Advisory Council, both past and currently serve today, and are continuing to be active in the Aaron community. As a fellow, your airfare and hotel is provided for your attendance at an Aaron meeting, and then there's also a stipend that's provided for some expenses. The next thing I wanted to mention now as a part of that is Aaron 55 the Aaron 55 meeting. Of course, Aaron is one of the RIRs that provides internet number resources to the Caribbean region along with LACNIC. We'll be having our Aaron 55 meeting the 27th through the 30th of April in Charlotte, North Carolina. That meeting will include a RPKI, Resource Public Key Infrastructure Deploy-a-thon, which will be held on Sunday, the 27th. For those that are interested in RPKI and securing internet routing, that might be of interest. The actual meeting venue is the Hilton Charlotte Uptown, and we do provide both in-person as well as virtual participation. Participation is free, but we do require registration either way, whether that's virtual or in person. Next week, the meeting registration will open, so that'll open on the 20th of January. So why is it important to be part of the Aaron meeting and the Aaron community? Well, it's really all about policy discussions. Those policy discussions really outline how Aaron issues internet number resources to the community. And I'm talking about autonomous system numbers, IPv4 and IPv6, and that's where business organizations and otherwise have a presence on the internet to actually conduct business. There'll also be, so participation, when we're talking about policy participation, our policies work best when they include a broad range of voices, and that includes the Caribbean and Canada and parts of the United States, of course. But anyway, it's important that we have those voices from the Caribbean as part of our policy development process. We'll also have reports from the Aaron Board of Trustees. We'll have updates from Aaron's operations, legal department, outreach, engineering, security, human resources, and our training department activities as well. Lastly, I want to mention that we'll have updates from the Number Resource Organization. The Number Resource Organization is an organization that encompasses all of the RIRs at the executive level and fosters the development of global policy process as recommendations to ICANN. There'll also be the Address Supporting Organization, which is a function of providing those recommendations on global policy to ICANN. And then we'll also have reports from some of the other regional internet registries. That's my brief update. I'll take any questions, but otherwise I will turn it back over to the Secretary General. And again, thank you for the time.
Thank you as well, Nate, for that presentation. I don't see any questions. And we are going to, we'll make the presentation, the full presentation available on our website. The event page, you look at presentations, the links will be placed there. Certainly by tomorrow, if not end of business today. So we'll move along in the interest of time. Thank you so much, Nate. We'll now move to Ms. Campbell Massey, the Director of Public Policy for GSMA North America, who will tell us about the upcoming GSMA Mobile World Congress taking place in Spain.
Yes, thank you so much. 1 second while I bring up my slides.
Yeah.
Hope everyone's having a wonderful new year.
So far, yeah, thank you. We are.
Apologize, everyone. I am unused to Zoom and I'm having a hard time finding where to share screen. There we go. The big thing that says green. You see.
And then select the screen you want to share.
Okay.
And then you click share again.
Okay, so we'll start here. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Not yet. Click share.
What is this? Show all windows. There we go. Sorry, everyone.
So it's
You think I work for a technology company, so I would be good at this. However, you would be wrong. Well, anyway, my name is Campbell Massey, and I'm so excited to talk to you guys today about MWC Barcelona. Someone mentioned earlier the Gibraltar conference, and that will be right before. We would love to have you guys, although I do not encourage you guys to walk that way. They have high-speed trains in Spain, and I think you can take advantage of that. So of course, it's going to be at the Fira Gran Via, the same convention center it has been in years past, taking place March 3rd through 6th. Our themes for this year are Converge, Connect, Create, and you'll see that throughout the entire conference. The conference is very, very, very large, and it has a lot of booths to see and different sessions for people. But what I'm talking to you guys about, as this is mostly a governance audience for the most part, is going to be our ministerial program, which I'm just going to put this plug out there as well. What we do every year is we send out invitations to every top regulator in every country in the world. Sometimes for the Caribbean, there's changes, etc. So if you feel that you meet that criteria, but you have not ever received an invitation from us, please reach out to me. My email is at the bottom, and I would love to make sure that you're included and that we're including everyone on this list. The ministerial program is a conference within this larger conference, and we have sessions with leaders from around the world. I will say, so for this year, we have the incoming US FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, has said that he's going to join us, and he's going to be on a couple panels as well. So there's going to be quite a lot of representation there. I hope to see a few of you there. Again, if you haven't received an invitation and would be interested in joining, please email me at below, cmassey@gsma.com. The focus for the ministerial program this year is going to be around responsible AI governance, energy efficiency of networks. That's a lot. We're doing a lot on climate action, circular economy with vendors, etc., as well as spectrum. There's always spectrum things to be done there. As well as a dialogue about investments and traffic growth, et cetera. All, I think, very important for the Caribbean, and we would love to hear more from you guys. Within the conference, we are scheduled to have a Caribbean roundtable, which for those who are in person in Barcelona, it will be on Wednesday at 2:30 Barcelona time. However, thankfully, since it's in the afternoon, we're able to offer virtual participation. And if that's something you're interested in doing, it's going to be 9:30 AST that day. We'll be sending out an invitation. Again, and if you have any questions about the ministerial program or Barcelona in general, I'm happy to do that. The next thing I'm going to point out, though, because I have not presented to this group in a year, is that last year, congratulations, Trinidad and Tobago was GSMA's government award winners for 2024. Unfortunately, that does make you ineligible for 2025. Apologies, guys, but I did want to take the opportunity to say congratulations. This was a really big deal for us, and we were really happy to see Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean represented here for all of the good works that they've been doing and working to push connectivity out to citizens everywhere. Just very inspiring. So congratulations to them. And finally, if you are going to be in Barcelona, beyond that, we would like to invite you to our reception. We were going to have a small reception on Tuesday, March 4th from 6 to 8 at Casa Varela. If you are going to be in Barcelona and want to join, feel free. If you're emailing me, you can do that, or you can directly email Judith Escunez, who I think a few of you know, at jestscunez@gsma.com. We would love to see you there. We'd love to see you in Barcelona. And I'm sure that was very under my time limit, but I do appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much for that very concise presentation. I did share, I kind of got ahead of you, and I shared the fact that Trinidad and Tobago, the link is in the chat there, got this award last year. And it was a great opportunity for us to network and coordinate the participation of the Caribbean delegation. Met many companies there, including some who are now members. So we look forward to the participation in 2025. There is one hand. I'm not sure if this question is for you, and if the person still wants to raise the question, but there's a hand raised by Regla Diajo Pinilos.
Yes, I'm happy to answer questions if I can.
Sure, go right ahead, Regla. You have just a few seconds. If not, you can type the question and we'll be happy to respond as well in the chat. Okay, we'll circle back. And like I said, you can post it in the chat if you want. So thank you so much, Campbell Massey, for sharing that with us. And again, we look forward to participating in 2025.
Hope to see you all in Barcelona. Thank you.
Okay. Where are you presenting from today?
Me?
Yep.
I am in our North America headquarters of Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll go now to Ms. Monica Rodriguez, who is the project administrator for the Regional Office for Central America and Caribbean, UN Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, to tell us about the upcoming workshop on ransomware for Caribbean first responders and investigators. And we have been doing some work with the UNODC in the past for continued collaboration. Last year was around child sexual abuse material, CSAM, and we had some excellent facilitators from the United States. And we look forward to working with you again. And CIGF, of course, yes, thanks for reminding me about that. So please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Just briefly, yes, as continuous of the work with founded by UK, we have regional training on ransomware for first responders and investigators of the Caribbean. The activity, it's going to be on March, and well, it's just part of to straight the cybersecurity and cybercrime in the Caribbean, and promoting the international cooperation to ensure an open, free cyber spaces. And also, you know that the General Assembly just approved the new convention on cybercrime, so it's just going to be a little part also in the training to the countries to know all the topics to be covered in the new convention, to work together to ensure that countries wants to be part of the cyber convention and working together against the cybercrime. And thank you so much for the space.
All right, thank you very much.
We'll probably have it via the CTU website.
Yes, oh, absolutely. We'll be sharing and promoting it as well.
Okay, we can move along then. Back to the internet governance space right now. And coming up would be the ICANN 82 Community Forum, which would be in Seattle, I think, in March. And we have Mr. Albert Daniels, the Stakeholder Engagement Manager, or Senior Manager for Stakeholder Engagement in the Caribbean of ICANN, who would be talking to us about that. So, Albert, over to you. We are seeing a slide, but we're not hearing you.
Oh, you're not hearing me?
Okay, we're hearing you now.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Thank you very much, Nigel. All the best to you and all of the participants for 2025. I was asking actually if you could see my screen.
Yes,
Just
yes.
want to make sure that everything goes as planned. So the acronym ICANN ICANN stands for the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. And this is a global not-for-profit corporation which coordinates the Internet's unique system of identifiers. One N for numbers and one N for names. So the internet that we use every day for economics, for business development, for social activity is governed by a set of policies, and it is in the ICANN ecosystem at ICANN meetings and at intersessional meetings where these policies are actually developed, drafted, and implemented. And the thing about it is there needs to be a connection between what happens at the global level and what happens at the local level. And this is why I'm so happy on this call to note that I have persons like Gary Campbell, Carlton Samuel, and Cadian Smith, who were recently participants and speakers at a local ICANN event which took place in Jamaica. We call it the Lac I Roadshow. And the whole aim of these outreach events is to sensitize local communities on what is happening at the global level so that when these ICANN meetings come around, for example, the one that we're going to be talking about now, we can get informed inputs from these participants in all of our Caribbean territories. So the meeting that we are going to be talking about today is the ICANN 82 Community Forum, which takes place in Seattle, Washington, from the 8th to the 13th of March. Now, the thing about it is ICANN has 3 of these global meetings per year, and there are 3 different types of meetings. One is an annual general meeting, one is a policy forum, and the meeting that's coming up in Seattle from the 8th to the 13th is a community forum, and there are subtle differences between these meetings. But to find out more in terms of the scheduling, I would recommend that participants go to this website, meetings.icann.org. And interestingly, the entire schedule of all of the global ICANN meetings from as far back as 1999 when we started, all the way through to 2028 is listed. And the reason why that's important is that if you wanted to go back and review the video and the recording from any one of these meetings, what you will find is that there are links to all of the sessions and there's transcripts of all of the sessions at this website, meetings.icann.org. So we just had an annual general meeting recently in Istanbul, and the meetings are rotated in the 5 geographic regions. So you see then that coming from the Asia Pacific region, we are now going to be moving to the North America meeting for a meeting in Seattle. Now, before the ICANN meetings, which can be complex places, we have what is referred to as a prep week, which is a preparatory set of sessions to give new participants who are going to be joining online or who are going to be joining in person a sense of what they can expect at the ICANN meeting. And all are welcome to participate in that. And when you go to the main ICANN 82 website, you will see the links to the prep week sessions, which take place from the 24th to the 26th of February 2025. The next ICANN meeting after Seattle, ICANN 83, takes place in Prague from the 9th to the 12th of June. And then after that, we are going back to the Asia Pacific region for another AGM from the 25th to the 30th of October. And the thing about it is ICANN attempts as far as possible to lower the bar to encourage our participation globally. And one of the programs that we have that assists with that is the fellowship program. And for a fellowship program, if you are successful in being accepted, ICANN will cover the cost of your airfare and accommodation with a small stipend to whatever the location that the meeting is taking place at. And you can see that the application process for ICANN 82 and 83 are already closed. Fellows for ICANN 82 were announced on the 31st of October, and fellows for ICANN 83 will be announced on the 4th of February 2025. And these dates are important. So if you wanted to become a fellow for ICANN 84, which is taking place in Muscat in October, the application period for that will open on the 25th of February 2025 and close on the 25th of March 2025. So to understand what happens at an ICANN meeting, this diagram will help. There are 3 main components of the ICANN ecosystem. Representatives of the global community, that is representatives of government, the end users, the technical community, security community, and so on. And they get together and they draft and discuss and develop potential policies. These policies, in turn, are submitted to the ICANN Board of Directors, which is in effect a subset of the ICANN community with representatives from diverse backgrounds, diverse organizations. And that board looks at what has been proposed and developed by the community, and then a vote is taken. And once these policies have been voted to be executed by the board then instructs the ICANN organization, which is the staff, to actually execute these policies. So it's very important to have the voices of the diverse parts of the global community participating in ICANN meetings, because this is what determines the types of policies that we would actually have for the internet that we use every day. In terms of the different sections of the community, we have one group which are referred to as supporting organizations, and the address supporting organization looks at policies which are affecting numbers, and these are also informed by the regional organizations. You just heard from Aaron, which covers inputs from North America, Canada, and parts of the Caribbean. And LACNIC actually takes inputs from parts of Latin America and other parts of the Caribbean. And those also informed what happens at the address supporting organization within the ICANN ecosystem. Similarly, from a names perspective, there's a grouping that looks at policies related to country code top-level domain names like .jm, .bb, .tt, and so on. And that is the country code name supporting organization, CCNSO. And there's another grouping that looks at global policies. For example, should we have new generic top-level domain names? Should we have internationalized domain names, which allow persons from different scripts, using different scripts, to use the internet in their own language? And that particular supporting organization is referred to as the generic name supporting organization. And these three organizations draft and develop policies, but while these policies are being drafted for consideration by the board, you have 4 advisory committees advising the board of the potential impacts that any of these policies could have on the security, stability, and overall functioning of the internet. For example, if we decide that we're going to add new top-level domain names to the internet, the Security and Stability Advisory Committee, the ESAC, will advise the board on how this might impact the security of the internet. And similarly, we have the At-Large Advisory Committee, which represents the views of end users and makes end user inputs into policy development at ICANN. And we have a very important group, as well, the GAC, the Governmental Advisory Committee. All of the groups are important, but the GAC represents the views, the official views of governments with regard to ICANN policy and the potential impacts that internet policies developed at ICANN may have when they integrate with national policies. And there's a group of technical professionals who run what we refer to as root servers. That's a technical aspect of the internet. And the Root Server System Advisory Committee also advises the board on the impacts of ICANN policies on the root. And you have this sequence of events where the supporting organizations, the ASO, the CCNSO, and the GNSO start the policy development process. They develop drafts that are put out for public comment, which eventually get submitted to the board for consideration. And while all of this is going on, you have the advisory committees that I just spoke about, the RSAC, the ESAC, the GAC, and the At-Large, advising the board. And then the board looks at the policy, votes on it, puts it out for public comment first, and then a vote is taken. And then it's passed over to the ICANN organization for final deployment. Now, we know that ICANN can be a fairly complex place, so the ICANN organization takes certain steps to ensure that persons participating in the meeting are well prepared. And we do something special for governments, particularly governments of the Caribbean, where we host what we refer to as a Governmental Advisory Committee webinar. This is hosted by the Latin American Caribbean Global Stakeholder Engagement Team, and it's held just before the ICANN meeting. and it's also facilitated by the support staff of the GAC. And the interesting thing is that the webinar that we do is actually customized for Latin America and the Caribbean, and we are considerate to the needs and the concerns of the Caribbean. And you see on the screen some of the topics that are actually covered in that webinar. Moving quickly along, I've already spoken about Prep Week. An important session that's going to be taking place at ICANN 82 is a SID session, Small Island Developing States. We have geographic regions already established in ICANN, but SIDs are not an established geographic region in ICANN. But thanks to the CTU, what we've done is we've gotten these countries together, and we've looked at the needs of the SIDS countries as you see on this slide, and we will be having a session at ICANN 82 specifically geared towards SIDS, not only from the Caribbean, but also from the Pacific and the other regions that you are seeing here. So just to give a taste of some of the topics that are going to be important in sessions at ICANN 82, of course, we have the SID session, which is likely to be on Wednesday, March 12th from 10:30 to 12. But we're also going to be looking at some of the awards in the ICANN grant program. We're going to be looking at the new generic top-level domain name program and the related applicant support program, which is meant to have more applications. We're going to be looking at registration, data access, and of course, universal acceptance and DNS abuse. So with regard to the grant program, there are thousands of dollars available for different projects. I think there are one or two that came in from the Caribbean. And this is one of the topics that will be discussed at ICANN 82. Of course, the new generic top-level domain name program where we have new GTLDs come into the root. That will be discussed. And also the more important applicant support program, which is meant to get new applications for new GTLDs in the next round. Our DRS is a way for security professionals to get access to registration data, who owns a domain name, so we can prosecute problems with security and bad actors. And this is a sort of sampling of some of the topics that actually are going to be discussed at ICANN 82. So I've put my email address up on the screen right now. The deck is going to be available to the CTU. So anyone who is interested in getting more information on anything that I've covered in the presentation is welcome, to send me an email or reach out to the CTU, and we'll be able to take care of any concerns or any requests that you may have for further information. So I think I've reached my 10-minute limit. So I will stop here and attempt to stop sharing.
Yes. Thank you very much, Albert.
Okay.
Happy to see the follow through on the SID session, and it even has a date and time. So that's good. It's good to know, and it'll help us in our.
That is the date and time that has been requested, but as you are well aware, we are still in the stages of negotiation because everybody, wants to have sessions at times that are convenient to them. We also have to look at the possibility and potential of conflicts between high interest sessions and other sessions. We don't want to schedule at a time that something else is happening. But this particular block that I've requested is actually a time when community groups are expected to be having their meetings. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we get that time and date that we actually requested.
All right. Well, I mean, as a participant in the GAC, I can tell you there is no free time for the GAC in an ICANN meeting. So it really is always a competition, and one often has to make the decision, okay, well, I'll take part in this particular activity at this time. But thank you very much for that. We expect we will have CTU participation on site, and and especially if this program goes on as well, for sure we'll also have some online participation.
One important point, Nigel, I should emphasize is that this SIDS meeting is not an ICANN-driven SIDS meeting. What we are really expecting is persons from the community to take an active role in chairing the session, in driving the agenda, in making inputs. And the ICANN organization is really there to facilitate this. So we really need input from our various territories. We need the concerns, We need a driving coming from the community so that you as a community will get what you need to satisfy your requirements.
Agreed, agreed. And we'll take up that mantle as I think the initiative came from us the last time that we had it, so we'll do that again.
And you can confirm that there's full remote participation. Fortunately, it's within our time zone, so we want to encourage full participation from our staff.
Absolutely. In the request that I made in our electronic management system, I specifically requested a remote participation so that our friends from the Pacific SIDS and from Africa SIDS would have the opportunity, if they're not able to travel, to participate in the meeting fully.
All right, thank you very much. Much appreciated. Our next meeting actually is a CTU meeting, and I'll hand over to the SG to talk about this.
Sure, thank you, Nigel. And I'll be very brief here because this is really to inform our stakeholders that this meeting is taking place. It's a virtual meeting. It's really an opportunity for us. It's an internal meeting, as it were, of the CTU. We report to our executive council twice a year. The last time we met was at St. Kitts and Nevis. And it's an opportunity to, let me just say, in terms of the structure of the CTU Secretariat reports to the Executive Council, which is the administrative body, and they in turn report to the General Conference of Ministers, and those are the ministers with responsibility for information and communication technology and digital transformation and so on. And the Executive Council is made up of advisors to those ministers. So in many cases, they're permanent secretaries, or they may be chiefs of telecoms or directors of the regulatory authorities, etc. We take the opportunity to give a report from the Secretariat on meetings we've attended, any policy issues coming out of those meetings that they need to be aware of. And of course, that is where the coordination and harmonization of our positions take place within that meeting. So there's a CTU Secretary General's report. We're still formulating the meeting. It's, the agenda for the meeting, which takes place on the 19th March. So it is a closed meeting for the Executive Council members. There will be a few sessions open to the private sector who may want to make key presentations to the Executive Council on any regulatory challenges or policy issues they may be having doing business in the region, and that's an opportunity for our private sector members to present to the Executive Council. We will be presenting also the new strategic plan for the CTU 2025-2028 for their approval, and that will give us our direction for the next 4 years, and sharing with them also the calendar of events and getting a little more into the meaty stuff, the discussions on the policy issues. So today we talked about, when the meetings are happening, what are some of the issues, but we dive a little deeper into those issues when we meet with our Executive Council. So we'll be getting reports from the ITU Council and issues such as the contributory units and the various activities taking place within the WTPF, the upcoming WTDC, and so on. There'll be the opportunity there to coordinate those positions as well and agree formally. In addition to that, we present our financial reports, audited statements, management accounts, report on the contributions that we receive through sponsorship and through private sector members, in the interest of transparency, of course. And so our Executive Council is fully aware of how their financial resources are being spent. The last Executive Council meeting in St. Kitts and Nevis, there was an election for the executive election of officers, and Barbados remains the chair of the Executive Council. That's Mr. Clifford Bostic, who is the director of digital infrastructure in the government of Barbados. And the deputy chair, sorry, slipping me now.
Yeah. Grenada.
No, not Grenada. Grenada also remained as vice chair of the Executive Council. So effectively, the meeting will be chaired by Barbados, Mr. Clifford Bostic. And that's it really in a nutshell. It's being held virtually, as I mentioned. Sometimes they're held in person, but this one is be held virtually. And in preparation for EC 53, which will take place in the margins of the, well, not in the margins, it will be a part of the ICT week in Jamaica in September. So I'll move, then that's it. If there are no questions on the Executive Council meetings, I will go then to Mr. Jan Schroeder, who is the founder of CaribCoin. We are on the advisory body of CaribCoin in the interest of advancing the digital payments within the region. And he'll tell you all about our upcoming complementary currencies webinar. Jan, are you on?
Yes. Yes, I am, and thank you for having me. And I will definitely not tell you everything because then you won't join the webinar. But I'll be happy to give you a brief overview of what this webinar will be about. And essentially, it's not a webinar, it's an invitation. It's an invitation to jointly implementing a digital catalyst for Caribbean prosperity. At least that's what ChatGPT proposes, and I somehow like the title because it's actually what it's about. This is not the first time we have the pleasure to do a webinar together with CTU on this topic of implementing Carib Dollar, which is this digital catalyst. It's essentially the third time, and last time this was a really important one. CPSO joint advisory group after that. We discovered the use case of agriculture for Carib Dollar, and now maybe a lot of people in this room may be asking themselves or whomever, what the hell is this guy talking about? So if you don't know, till now, the financial system in the Caribbean is very disconnected, and this disconnection suffocates regional development. I just ran into something like that several months ago. We had to pay fees in Cayman Islands. Our bank account is in Trinidad. Took us 6 weeks because somehow there is low availability of US dollar in the region, but we have a high dependency on the US dollar. Furthermore, we need correspondent banks to do transfer of funds, but these banks leave the region. If we have the ability to do transfers, it takes quite some time. We have high transaction costs for small MSMEs. It's up to 50 to 20% of the transaction fees on what they want to transfer. So there are a lot of barriers to what the Caribbean has been dreaming of for more than 50 years now, free flow of capital across borders. And because of that, CSME and major regional initiatives like 25 by 2025 just don't work. The latter is an initiative in the agricultural sector to lower the Caribbean import bill for food by 25%, well, until 2025. And this seems to be only a part of success because of these financial barriers we have in the system in the Caribbean. So what we propose is to implement a complementary currency, which is a currency working in parallel to the national currencies. Actually, it's not a real currency because CaribCoin is no central bank. We're a private company. We're setting up public-private network, issuing this complementary currency for the whole Caribbean. The advantage is it may be used across the whole Caribbean and only across the Caribbean. So it will not flow out of the region. It brings extra liquidity to the region, and those of you who have dealt with regions who have a lack of liquidity, into the 1930s, go to the financial crisis 2009, then economy really suffers from liquidity drenches. And actually the Caribbean has this impermanence. Because USD just flows out of the region, we have this FX regime, and this is where a complementary currency can help. It can help when it's stable, can help when it's a digital asset, can help when it's backed by Caribbean assets. And what we truly believe in, we need it to be governed by a public-private partnership. And this is where CTU comes in. We have a governance board there, and CTU and CPSO are the first members supporting us in bringing Carib Dollar forward as a solution for the Caribbean. Now, where we're standing at the moment, we started 2021, and I don't want to bother you with history. We had a lot of pivots like every startup. And in 2024, we really got the ship moving. So the foundation was laid for successful implementation of Carib Dollar in 2025. And what do I mean by that? So first of all, we set up our basis, product development and integration. That's where we're up to. We finalized our product development at the moment, so we can issue Carib Dollar, we can distribute it, it can be transferred from businesses to businesses. All this has been set up and works and now can be integrated into payment service provider apps or whoever wants to support in being an agent of Carib Dollar throughout the region. Licensing is on its way. We've just passed a second stack of documents to CIMA, which is the financial authority in the Cayman Islands where CaribCoin is based. We've done a lot of team and network building because we essentially believe this can only be a joint effort of the whole Caribbean. This is nothing a private company can and should do by itself. And that's why we're working together with the Caribbean Private Sector Organization, with Caribbean Telecommunications Union. UE is just joining our advisory group as well, and there are other hopefully queuing up in 2025. In 2024, in July, we did the first transfer of Carib Dollar between Trinidad and Tobago, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, and Barbados. We used the stakeholder meeting of Connect Carib in Barbados for that. And because everybody thought this was so exciting, we did it again. All central banks of the three countries were in the know. They were watching this. We're in intense discussions now with them based on this, how they can support us in bringing Carib Dollar to the region in a larger scale. So the next step was the Caribbean Week of Agriculture. So why agriculture? For example, if you are a small farmer in St. Vincent, you want to sell cassava into Trinidad, okay, you receive $20 and then you try to get them back to St. Vincent. You have run into a hassle there, you lose something about 20% of your revenues before your money is back to St. Vincent, so you better just don't do that. And that's exactly the point. If you want to reduce the food import bill, you have to grow food. And if you want to grow food, you need to have a place to sell it. And that's where Carib Dollar comes in. It just helps to support cross-border sales. And that's why we got a lot of positive attention in this Caribbean Week of Agriculture. That's why we're focusing on agricultural trade throughout the Caribbean as one of our core use cases. The second one is digital CSME. Now, what will happen in 2025? Just before our field test, we'll have this webinar. And this webinar will be, well, jointly shaping our future again, the future of Carib Dollar and how we implement it in the region. The field test at the moment is designed as a large-scale test with having 6-digit flows of US dollar value between the three countries we're talking about, and it should be a preparation for 2026 for really going to scale throughout the Caribbean. Now, what will happen in this webinar? You'll learn even more about value propositions of complementary currencies. I'm in contact with several international experts on that. So this is not just a crazy idea in the Caribbean. There are about something like 3,000 complementary currencies around the world, very small ones, bigger ones. This could become the biggest one. We'll give you some more highlights on the progress of our introduction, and then we really want to foster discussion among key regional stakeholders from politics, from the financial sector, from digital sector, from the agricultural sector. What are the right pathways to leverage Carib Dollar? Because, as I said, this is a joint venture of the whole Caribbean. That's our invitation. And I'm sure we'll add elements to our roadmap. Just take an example. Last year, we've learned about the device-to-device, so the D2D opportunities of mobiles chatting direct with satellites. Now, that's ideal for disaster recovery because one problem you always have after a disaster is recovering economy as well. Economy needs money flow. And well, with a D2D device and some solar panels to feed the device, then you can access Carib Dollar and set up your local economy again after a disaster rather fast without waiting for terrestrial infrastructure. So there's a lot of ideas floating around where Carib Dollar could support the development of economy, the recovery of economy. I'm really looking forward to have these discussions with those of you interested in fostering, well, digital trade, digital transfers throughout the Caribbean. See you on March 21st, 10 to 12 a.m. p.m. AST. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Schroeder. We have a comment. Jerry George is liking what he's hearing with the Carib dollar concept. A shared platform to leverage everyone who wishes to participate, as opposed to a closed private platform focused on simply making profits for the platform owners. So it's a word of support for Carib dollar.
We have a hand up as well. Belnando Weeks.
Okay, thank you, Belnando. You have the floor. You have a few seconds. You wish to comment? If so, open your mic and camera, or you can also post your question in the chat.
No, I don't have a comment. I think that was an accidental raise of hand. Thank you very much.
No problem. That's fine. Thank you. Thanks for participating today. Okay, so I'll hand over. Thank you, Jan, and I'll hand over to Nigel to introduce the next session.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah. When I began as the first speaker, I did make mention of some upcoming ITU preparatory meetings for the WTDC, and I said later in the program we'll be dealing with those. Now is the time. So I would like to invite Mr. Cleveland Thomas, who is the area representative for the Caribbean region for the ITU, to tell us about three things, actually. One is the ITU Global Youth Summit, and then also the Regional Development Forum and the Regional Preparatory Meeting for the Americas region, all three taking place in the first quarter. So Cleveland, if you are there, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I'm sharing my presentation. Can you see it?
Yes, it's not yet in presentation mode, but we see it as PowerPoint would bring it up.
What about now?
Right, I'm seeing your presenter mode rather than my full screen.
Rather than your full screen.
So go up where it says whatever view there. What is that? Not reading it. Right. It's one of those.
Yeah, just a second.
Yeah.
So, all right. In the interest of time,
We can
probably
see
I'll go through from here. Would that help?
Yeah. We can see this. It's only if it gets a little bit too dense, but it's good.
Okay. I don't think it will. Anyway, and again for everyone, I just want to join everyone else in welcoming you for being here, and also to thank you for your time. Wishing everybody a happy New Year, as we heard from other speakers. As Nigel said, we are going to go through very quickly.
It's perfect now. I see you got
It's good?
Yes, it's good now.
Okay.
Just go ahead.
Okay, brilliant. All right, so I'll go ahead. Nigel said that he spoke earlier about the ITU events, and therefore there's no need for me to spend too much time. Equally, we had our colleague Tariq, who spoke about this upcoming Smart Seas event that we have in Trinidad, not in a couple weeks from now. I don't want to get into more details other than to remind people that we have the event dealing with small-scale fishers, the importance of having ICT connectivity, communication, and ultimately looking to save lives. The scope, he spoke about that. I wouldn't go through it, but essentially, we are talking about having the event between the 3rd to the 6th of February. He shared the agenda already, and he also shared with each and every one of us what's the objective, and even going to identify the code here to register. for any one of the two events. Yep. So I will move beyond these two items again because he gave time to it and speak to the Global Youth Summit of 2025. The summit will be held between the 11th to the 13th of March in Cuba. And we have had other meetings before the same location, but this is where it's going to be at the Millennia International Hotel. The summit, essentially, the objective of it is to really get many of the young people engaged in ICT to utilize their skills, etc., in developing and making contribution to not only at a national level, but potentially regional or international. And it is an opportunity to provide that platform for connection and exchanges of practices, good or otherwise, hands-on workshop and other forms of meeting together. We also have an opportunity to identify the needs and possibly some of the challenges that the youths are having. At the bottom of the slide here, what I sought to do is to identify what is the key outcome we anticipate at this Global Youth Summit. We're essentially coming out of it with all of the meeting and so forth over those few days, that we will have a report that we can then share with policymakers, potential investors, and many others. I know that many agencies, UN or otherwise, and organizations do have some component for youth and youth development, probably at an ICT level as well. We have our sister agencies like UNICEF and others who have some element of youth, and we encourage that. I think it is important, and by bringing these youth together, it helps us to really get a voice and a view, a perspective from the youths themselves. From this program, I'm happy to also mention that in a couple of days, we are going to be having a discussion with the youth, Generation Youth Leadership Program. And for those who are not familiar, the first cohort of this group is about 30 young fellows. We had our application, open application internationally, and we got over close to 5,500 applicants for the first cohort of this program that we have with Huawei in digital training, etc., in which we offered a grant. We identified 30 persons for the first year, and we have started that program. We're just going to have some discussion shortly. And what is really pleasing is that since over the last year or two, within the Caribbean region, one of the fellows from St. Lucia, he has developed his own program. And coming out of it, he has just received approval for funding of just about below $700,000 US with a combined program of the government, the IDB, and the EU to create an innovation hub. So that in itself, I think, is a good testimony of programs like these, and there are others, but just thought I'll mention that one, because we do have a meeting with a few others to share some exchanges over the next few days. So again, why should you participate? There's an opportunity like that to start off, to get more information, get a youth voice for empowerment, for interactive collaboration and so forth, sharing the views and opinions overall, and to help you also develop policies that based on the needs that are identified by the participants. All the ITU members, Generation Connect members can also attend, and similarly UN and other related organization representative can attend. I will put into the chat the site for anybody looking for more information. Nigel spoke quite extensively on the Regional Development Forum and the Regional Preparatory Meeting for the World Telecommunication Development Conference. As we know that the World Telecommunication Development Conference is going to happen later in the year, somewhere between the 17th and the 18th of November. And it's going to be Azerbaijan in Baku. But in preparation for that meeting, where we are going to be looking at reviewing the results of the WTDC and the implementation since 2022, we are going to be looking at more some of the key issues that are that the region may have an interest in as far as ICT is concerned. So it intends to achieve regional coordination. So rather than turning up at that conference over the few days, what are some of the key issues that the region are attending to? What are some of the challenges? And therefore, collectively, to have an input that from the Caribbean, we can take it to the Americas, and then the Americas take it to the world. And so this regional development conference and preparatory meeting, the development conference first speaks to a high-level dialogue on the issues and the directions. And of course, the meeting will then seek to identify what are the key areas we need to address to develop the telecommunications sector within the region, and prioritize what they might be. And we want to develop, provide inputs to what the draft will be, because at the WTDC, we are looking at having a report for 2028 to 2031. So again, we don't want to wait, as previous speakers speak and said, you don't want to wait to just have the outcome presented to you. And some of you may remember that there were certain thematic priorities for the region. At one point in time, it was connectivity, digital transformation, and enabling environment and cooperation, and so on. For the Americas, then when we look at 2023 to 25, we were looking at security, deployment of modern, resilient, and a secure, sustainable ICT infrastructure. Is that what we still want to have for us within the region? And we also have three others. We were looking at digital literacy skills, digitalization, especially focusing on persons, the vulnerable. Somebody spoke about the vulnerable earlier, I think was with the smart cities. And then we have, for the Americas, the third item area was digital transformation and innovation. And lastly, we were looking at the enabling policy and regulatory environment, dealing with things like accessibility, affordability, and also meeting the SDGs goals towards a digital economy. What are those things that the Caribbean collectively would want to identify as important in going forward for the next how many years to 2031? And again, it's an opportunity not only to ensure that what is important to us gets attention, but also you have an opportunity to network, collaborate, probably try to get partnerships, strengthen the relationship, and so forth with others. That's it for me. Really, essentially for the session. I didn't plan anything else other than those three items, and to encourage you, if you can, to attend. We have loads of information online. Some people already ask about fellowship. Fellowships are available to the extent that follow our rules of those administration, member state sector members, and so forth. of the ITU and depending on whether they are in certain categories, LDCs, etc. But remember, everything is consensus based. Contributions are necessary. Unless we make contributions as to what is important and possibly also lend our voice, as we did within the Plenipotentiary Conference a few years ago, then we do not know what it will mean as it relates to getting some of these key issues for the region. Climate for the Caribbean is important. Emergency communication remains important as we go along. And I'm not dismissing the other areas that I've heard previous speakers have identified, but we have to try and find a way, as we have done successfully at the last RPM, where I think through the CTU, you call that meeting and you were able to bring together some of the major issues for the region for the ensuing years. Over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Cleveland. So that is a wonderful reminder that on the 24th of January, we will again be having our Caribbean preparatory meeting for this, and IT would be involved as well. So you're invited and you're reminded and invited to participate again for us to collate and agree our common goals for the Caribbean that we take into this. We're getting towards the end now.
Yes, so we're on the home stretch. 2 more meetings to tell you about. Then we'll get into the, thank you, Cleveland. We'll get into the global industry watch segment presentation from GSOA and also ICPC. So stick around for those. So next we have Jerry George, who's an ICT consultant and business solutions architect for DigiSolve Inc., to tell us about the International Institute for Communications, IIC, the Caribbean chapter meeting that is taking place in St. Lucia. And I know time flies very quickly, but this chapter was established just last year. Is that right, Jerry? To you?
Yes, good afternoon to all. I am sharing my screen and let me know if you are seeing. It looks like you're seeing.
Yes, we are.
Okay, good. Yes, good afternoon to all. Yes, the IIC is International Institute of Communications, and they're an independent international forum that bring together statutory national regulators, competition authorities, global commercial operators, user representatives, and policymakers to try to find the best regulatory frameworks for the widest social benefit. And they do that in a collegiate, neutral environment to discuss and debate policy issues. The NTRC in St. Lucia, and there are also a number of other Caribbean members, but we've realized that there is a need to address some of those issues from a Caribbean-specific perspective. And so we had proposed forming a Caribbean chapter, and that came to fruition last year, where we had our inaugural meeting in Barbados. That was in March of last year. So the Caribbean chapter launched last year officially, and we had our meeting in March. And we also had a follow-up meeting, a virtual roundtable in September of last year. So our format of meetings would generally be an in-person meeting in the first quarter of every year, and a virtual meeting or online meeting in the third quarter of the year. And one of the reasons for limiting to just one in-person meeting is, as we all know, the challenges of inter-Caribbean travel or travel within the Caribbean. So we have our second meeting scheduled, in-person meeting for St. Lucia for March 27th and 28th. That's the Thursday and Friday of March. And we're looking at some of the key topics we're looking at is risks and emerging threats of digitalization, where we're looking at regulatory tools for digital convergence, digital connectivity and infrastructure that touches on our national backbones, the availability of broadband and connectivity, and also some of the threats of even international connectivity, our subsea fiber, satellite links, and so on, and data privacy in small island states. We're also looking at digital media convergence and cultural preservation. That's focusing primarily on the broadcast and the media sectors. Looking at generating more Caribbean focused content so that we can achieve the common mantra to become producers and not mere consumers of internet services, and hopefully to maybe change or impact a little bit on the transit deficit, to maybe have more content flowing outwards instead of us consuming everything that comes from outside, and then also the impacts on our own culture and our cultural preservation. Of course, we're looking at AI, artificial intelligence, the information threats, governance and security, and taking a particular view of that. Cross-border regulations and digital transformation, where that looks at, particularly with big tech, cloud services, and so on, where your regulations may or may not have certain impacts because the service provider does not have a physical or legislative or presence or commercial presence in your economic space. And of course, cybersecurity and cybercrime in a digital world. It's a 2-day session. So the first day our format is three panels per day. 2 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, hoping that we will have sufficient time for discussion, engagement, and interaction. So the first panel, we're looking at planning and managing the digital transformation experience, focusing on regulatory tools for digital economy and trade. So this one focuses at the regulators, the policy people, and so on. The second panel looks at digital media convergence and cultural preservation. That's the media fraternity. And the third panel in the afternoon, looking at risks and emerging threats of digitalization, where we look at the infrastructure and the connectivity, and that comes back to our own infrastructure, backbones, national infrastructure, national policies, and so on. And it may touch on a number of the projects that are operating around the region, and some of them are actually multi-state projects. Like you have the CAR DTP project, you had something like CARSIP, and so on. The second day, we're also looking at regulatory convergence, telecoms, fintech, AI. We're seeing a lot of the digital economy is touching on a lot of different areas, and the underlying vehicle is primarily broadband. However, the regulation tends to be very fragmented, and so we have to look at what are the issues associated with that, and how can it be addressed? Digital infrastructure gaps, our availability of expertise, and the economic risks and international dependencies on the integration of technology, what it may mean, how it can impact our own in some cases, archaic or slow-moving legislation. We're looking at cybersecurity and cybercrime in a digital world, the protections, trusted communications. How do we really ensure protection at pretty much at the national level? So digital authentication systems, how can systems be put in to look at things like digital IDs and data collection and data sharing, both within the nation and across different nations. Vulnerabilities, data sovereignty and privacy concerns, and cross-border cybercrime complexity. And our last panel, we're looking at AI governance. For the AI issue, we're taking a particular focus on the potential problems that AI is introducing, and that we need to start looking at it so that um, the conversations can happen as far as how do we address those challenges. Misinformation, disinformation, erosion of public trust and social cohesion, fraud. And we're seeing on the news how AI is having impacts in other countries in really significant ways, both positive and negative. And so we have to start the conversations within our space, and also looking at regulation, whether it is needed, and if it is, how much regulation is needed, and so on. So that's the gist of the event. It tries to cover those issues that are really critical in our space. We would be having the idea of next steps. What do we do following? So it's not intended to be just a talk shop, but to actually have definitive actions coming out of it. How do we foster collaboration and have partnerships among our regional partners? Because we don't always work as close to each other, as closely with each other as we should. It happens in some areas, but in some other areas we have silos and more isolation than we should have. So that covers it in a nutshell. It will be happening Thursday and Friday of March 27th and 28th in St. Lucia. I can be contacted with at the information provided. The IIC's website has the information on the event, and it's also presented on CTU's website. We are still open to persons who may want to participate as a presenter, as a panelist. So feel free to reach out to me if someone wants, someone feels that they have something to offer. We will also be having a series of lightning talks. The idea is like a 5-minute presentation on some key topic, self-contained. And if anyone has any such ideas, reach out also so that we can try to incorporate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerry. I see a comment from Deirdre Williams, or Deirdre, as I'm always corrected to say. But I would be happy to hear that. About satellites and the problem of micro and mini space junk.
That next session. She's posted it early, but it's really for the GSO.
Okay, all right, very good. And there is a congratulations as well to Jerry, I expect, for the effort with the IIC Caribbean chapter. So we are down now to the final meeting presentation of our list, and I am happy to say we are doing quite well time. And I had also mentioned that there would be a CITEL meeting of PCC1 in Asuncion associated with preparing for WTDC, but it also will address some other things. And so we'll hear now from Ms. Maria Celeste Fuenmayor, who is a telecom specialist at the CTEL Secretariat. And I'll hand it over now to you, Maria Celeste, to tell us about the upcoming 46th meeting of PCC1.
Thank you so much, Nigel. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again, CTU, for the opportunity to CTEL to present this important meeting in 2025. Unbelievable, we start this journey right now, and we are pleased to invite you for the 46th meeting of CTEL that will be held in March in Asuncion, Paraguay. As you mentioned, the idea of this presentation is provide more details about the meeting, and as well as information on the status of our preparation toward WTDC 25. in this case, I would like to mentioning that we're gonna be have the PCC1 meeting as well, the second preparatory meeting of CITEL in Asunción, Paraguay, as I mentioned previously, from March 31st to April 4th. We already confirmed this morning the venue, so you are the first one that they know about which gonna be our venue in Asunción will be Paseo La Galería Hotel and Suite. And we're gonna be share this venue as well with the previous information that my colleague Cleveland from ITU mentioning about some other important meetings that we're gonna be back to back with CITEL and in this in the same week. To mentioning to you when this invite is extended for all CTU members and remind important to contribute to submission of document that will be very clear in this slide. What are the deadline for this submission? So for translation for documents, we're gonna be need translation. The deadline is March 13. For documents that they don't need translation or are information document will be March 20. And document after March 20 that we consider a late document. So document received after that day, we probably submit it for the following PCC1. I would like to mention that this meeting is gonna be in conjunction with ITU. The idea to have this meeting in the same week, it is because we're gonna be working together as a region in preparation for WTDC. Cleveland mentioning that we're gonna be have the ITU Regional Development Forum on March 31st. And then from April to 1 will be the ITU Regional Preparatory Meeting. So basically for the PCC1 meeting, we're gonna be have the last 2 days of the week, so will be April 3 to the 4th. Even though we're mentioning that is the entire week for PCC1 is because we work in conjunction with ITU, and some activities gonna be have side to side, and as well as some other tasks that we have to be in preparation for WTDC that is super important for us, the participation of the entire region and mostly CTU. This is something that Cleveland mentioning is the important to have a consolidated view of our initiatives, of our regional initiative. What are our expectations? What are the needs of our region toward to be included in our plan for the following period? So the expectation of to that week is the first period or the first part of the week is gonna be trying to approve a draft of the declaration of Baku. So it is prepared some of the comments and put some our knowledge in that declaration in order to be discussed in the other with other interregional or other regional organizations, and also as well have the initiative, the regional initiative already drafted in order to have a very consolidated document that will include all the needs in all our regions. So this is important that I have as mentioning previously by our dear colleague Cleveland, is to have the view of the Caribbean in those important matters. So this is important. This is why I'm gonna be extending you this invitation to all the members to participate. Toward that, and basically accumulate all this information, training, preparation for all the steps and all the phases that we're gonna be encountered toward WTDC. We're gonna be have in this slide all the information that probably our friend Cleveland already indicated, that is registration for the ITU RDF, registration for the regional preparation, and as well as our registration. It's basically 3 events. So the 3 events need individual registrations. So this is making you this important, this slide to let you know that you're going to be far more details and more information in every page on every meeting that are mentioning in this slide. Preparation for CTEL toward the ITU WTDC is in place. So our chairman will be Ena Decani from United States, and the vice chair will be Roberto Irayama of Brazil. You know, as always, CTEL Secretariat accompanying these activities that is our Executive Secretary, Oscar Leon, and myself. The preparatory timeline that we're expecting to prepare, you know, the Americas, to prepare CTEL for this important conference. Give me 1 second. This important conference, they have right here in this slide. This important conference, you know, will be basically in November. So we have many preparations in front of us. So the first one that is coming up is the first interim meeting that we're going to have on February the 26th. In this meeting, we're expecting to have some contributions regarding declaration, a contribution regarding the regional initiative, and also has the preliminary views of the preliminary proposals in preparation for WTDC, looking forward to have some Inter-America proposals as a region. And the most important PCC1 meeting that we're going to have in Asunción, Paraguay, will be April 3 and 4. So intended and preceded by the RDF and RPM. So you have in this timeline also what is our panorama for the entire year. So we have the interim meeting, the second interim meeting in July 9 in preparation for the 47 meeting of PCC1 that will be in Chile. This is the first time that CTEL gonna be has meeting in Chile. So we are so glad to have this opportunity to gonna be in the South America in order to have this final preparation meeting of the working conference. So finalizing with the meeting in Colombia in order to have any important details or any last matter, because the preparation of CITEL ending in Santiago de Chile is August, so we can probably have some issues to taking care. So we have a last preparation meeting during the CONCITEL meeting in Colombia. So we're going to have a session in order to touch base and, you know, summarize anything that we're going to be coming up in the late time in order to be ready for WTDC in November in Baku. Our CTEL focal points, we divided, you know, by topics regarding what is the Telecommunication Development Advisory Group. So you're gonna be know that Paraguay will be the administration who decide to helping us with the declaration. Brazil is gonna be helping CTEL to move all the contribution regarding study questions. United States will be in charge of ITUD priorities. Brazil will gonna be in charge of streamline resolutions. And Canada will be working toward this important activity that is the Youth Summit and the Global Youth Celebration that will be in March in Cuba. Reminding all of you that it's important your collaboration in order to prepare our Inter-American proposals. Remind that this development has some stages that you already clear, and I'm mentioning in a previous meeting are all based in the same resolution and based on the same procedure that for submit a preliminary proposal, you have to have one member supporting that in that topic. For have a DIP, we have to support one more administration basing on the administration who proposed it originally. And the Inter-American proposal has to have 6 support in order to convert it in an Inter-America proposal. And I would like to wrap up my presentation. So inviting you, all of you, to participate in the mentoring program. We already closed this call, I'm so glad to have very good amount of member from CTU and from colleague from the Caribbean that is are participate in this mentoring program. It's not late, you know, if somebody gonna have a last minute decision, please reach me. We are in the process to matching this information, to matching, you know, matching mentors and mentees. So I would like to invite one more time CTU and all the Caribbean members to participate in this mentoring program because it's going to be so helpful in order to uh, walk with you to the road to the WTSA 25. The coordinator of this program is our lovely Dr. Kim Malaliu that have a successful first cycle last year in preparation for WTSA. So now we are preparing our delegate for WTDC. So I would like to encourage CTU and all the members to participate as well. But thank you so much for the opportunity on behalf of our Executive Secretary, Oscar Leon, greeting all of you. Thanks again, CTU, for the opportunity to talk to all your members about this important meeting for CITEL and the preparation of CITEL for WTDC. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Maria Celeste. Just to confirm, the Santiago meeting in August is the one at which we would propose, that's the one we are aiming at to finalize all the IAPs, am I correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, all right, excellent. Thank you very much. Looking for any questions? I'm not seeing any questions cropping up, but I think having heard from Cleveland and Maria Celeste, we realize the process that our Caribbean inputs must go through. So we'll be reviewing that again at our planned prep meeting on the 24th of January. So you're urged to look at the CTU website and the correspondence we would have sent out as well for the relevant documents so that we can get the process started and be successful at the end.
Yes, thank you so much, Cleveland. And by the way, the Secretariat is going to be send more detail this week and the following week regarding the PCC1 meeting and as well as the preparation for WTDC through our working group of conference. So just stay tuned for our circular with more detail drafting of the all the documents that we need that you take a look. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well, Nigel. And so those are the meetings for Q1 only of 2025. So you have an appreciation for the volume of work that's involved in preparing for these meetings and getting our member states ready so that we can give our contribution to global policy discussions. So we're going to switch gears now and update you on some critical matters happening within the satellite space. The Global Satellite Operators Association will be presenting here, and we welcome Ms. Isabel Mauro, who's the Director General of the GSOA, to tell us about developments. And we've been seeing for ourselves the proliferation of LEO satellites, and this has, of course, raised the issue of space debris. We've seen reusable launch vehicles and so on. So we're very pleased that you could join us and update us on what is happening within the industry. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity. It's really an honor to speak about the exciting developments that are ongoing in the satellite industry and their impact on the Caribbean, which is such a unique, diverse, and dynamic region. So today I want to focus on where we see things going and how the satellite industry is really rising to meet the momentum and what are our priorities as an industry. First of all, it's expanding coverage and bridging the digital divide. You know, in the Latin American Caribbean region, about 67% of urban households have internet connections in comparison to only 23% of rural households. So in the Caribbean, connectivity in particular is crucial with communities that are scattered across islands and remote areas. And satellite technology has stepped in to bridge the digital divide, ensuring that even the most isolated communities have access to high-speed internet. So we've seen the deployment of next generation geostationary, but also LEO satellite and what we call multi-orbit systems that are really designed to transform connectivity by delivering seamless, high-capacity connectivity across the region. So you can have, for instance, students in remote villages. It means access to online education for small businesses. It opens doors to global markets for farmers and fishermen. It means maximizing their activity. And for governments, it also enables better delivery of critical services from healthcare to, for instance, disasters response. So that's the importance really as well if we want to sort of foster this growth. It's really to streamline licensing processes and reduce barriers to market entries, thus encouraging more investment, more competition, and ultimately benefiting consumers and businesses alike, increasing really the economic growth and jobs in the region. The second priority that we have is to enhance reliability and particularly a lifeline, in times of crisis. So the Caribbean is no stranger to natural disasters. We've seen a lot of hurricanes, earthquakes, and floods that are persistent threats. And in times of such emergency, having reliable communication networks really makes the difference between chaos or a coordinated response. And we've heard from Dr. Schroeder earlier how satellites can really offer unparalleled reliability, remaining operational when terrestrial networks are damaged and destroyed. And recent advancements in satellite technologies have really significantly enhanced this reliability. We've seen high throughput satellites, IoT systems, and resilient ground infrastructure are now capable of really providing connectivity even in the face of extreme conditions. The satellite-enabled early warning systems, for instance, are also helping governments and communities prepare for and mitigate the impacts of disasters, which sadly, with the global warming, are becoming more and more increasing. So for a region to be prepared, it's also key to enable temporary, rapid approval of disasters response communications before disaster strikes, so that you can allow prepositioning of equipment following the Tampere Convention to facilitate temporary entry of equipment to help disaster response and exchange of policy and regulatory best practices and preparedness exercises. So all of these are really key in this area. The third area and priority for the satellite industry is really driving innovation and meeting the needs of a dynamic region. Innovation lies at the heart of the satellite industry ability to meet the Caribbean's unique needs, from non-terrestrial and terrestrial networks integration to IoT and to Earth stations in motion, what we call SIMs. One of the key advantages of non-terrestrial networks is, of course, their ability to provide seamless and reliable connectivity, regardless of their location. And this is particularly valuable on the IoT environment for industries like precision agriculture, logistics, and disaster management, where operational efficiency really relies on real-time data. So as well, direct-to-device, which we've heard before, presents promising opportunities, facilitating seamless communications, especially in areas where it does not make economic sense to deploy base stations, hence directly supporting really the mobile coverage extension, if you want. By integrating satellite capabilities into mobile ecosystems, direct-to-device connectivity really promises to bridge significant mobile coverage gaps to improve the user experience and expand market opportunities in telecommunications. Another area of particular interest is SIMs. This is really a game changer for a region reliant on tourism and maritime activities such as the Caribbean. Whether it's providing high-speed internet on cruise ships or enabling real-time navigation and communication for fishing fleets, the Earth station integrations are really, revolutionizing connectivity on the move. So these innovations are really empowering local entrepreneurs, fostering a new wave of tech-driven economic growth as well in the region. And as we navigate this transformative era, of course, regulatory frameworks really play a crucial role in fostering innovation. They need to be future-looking, they need to be agile, so that we can ensure they promote investment and growth in the region. So flexible policies on SIMs, for instance, can unlock their full potential without compromising safety or reliability. Similarly, harmonizing spectrum allocation across the region can really ensure that satellites operate efficiently and without interference. But none of this progress would be possible without sustained investment. So the satellite industry is not only investing in cutting-edge technology, but also in the region's future. And we believe that partnerships between governments, private companies, and international organizations are key to ensure economical viable projects with a long-term view. The fourth, and not least, last but not least area is, of course, sustainability, space sustainability. This is a key priority for us as an industry. We've adopted a code of conduct on space sustainability at the end of last year, 2023, and mainly focusing on 4 areas where satellite operators have made commitments. One is really to limit the risk of in-orbit collision. The second is to minimize the threat of non-trackable debris. Third is to preserve human life in space. And the fourth is to limit the impact on optical astronomy. We've now made further commitments. We are starting to commission studies with the academic and scientific communities. And we are also, of course, committed to work with governments and policymakers and regulators on ensuring that the appropriate regulations, may be developed in due course. So, as a conclusion, what is GSOA doing as we are stepping into 2025? We are really looking to continue and increase our engagement with the region with a specific focus on some key areas. One, spectrum remain high on the list with our continued work towards WRC 27 and spectrum-related topics. Second, to supporting policies in development with our input into the preparatory work of WTDC at the end of this year. Third, increasing collaboration at a technical and regulatory level to foster the collaboration between terrestrial and non-terrestrial networks, which we think is so important. And finally, sustainability as well, which, as you know, we are working and collaborating with regulators there. So all of this is really to ensure that we accelerate digital transformation in the region, in the Caribbean, but elsewhere as well, in an inclusive and sustainable manner. And in terms of what we are preparing from our side, we've heard about a lot of meetings that are going to be happening next year. From our side, we'll be engaged in many of these meetings, and we encourage the region to actively contribute to the preparatory work of WTDC, the work of CTEL, in addition to all the many other activities. As a note, GSOA is preparing 2 technical notebooks within the CTEL process, one on best practices and one on innovation, to which the input of the Caribbean will really be key. So we're really counting on the input on the region. And in addition, as in the past, we look forward to engaging with you, CTU community, in the Mobile World Congress, which GSMA mentioned. And later in the year, during the CTU ICT week, we hopefully trying to we're aiming to co-host a GSOA policy dialogue roundtable with ministers. So let me conclude by saying that as a satellite industry, we are uniquely positioned to drive the Caribbean's digital transformation forward, and that we stand committed to working with all of you to serve the needs of the region's citizens, enterprises, but also governments. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Isabel. And there was a comment earlier, but you addressed it in terms of the space debris and e-waste and so on. So I think your presentation was quite comprehensive and informative. I would also mention that as chair of the IEG for the WTPF 26, that we also look forward to the contribution of GSOA the group of experts because space connectivity is one of the policy issues that up for discussion. So I don't see any other questions. I want to thank you. In the interest of time, we do need to take the last presentation, and that one will be done by Mr. Kent Bressie, who is the partner and head of international practice at HWG LLP. We'll be speaking about subsea cable resilience, and we had the presentation on satellite, and of course, the subsea cables are so critical now. We've seen some disruptions taking place within recent months, and I was introduced to Mr. Bressie on the virtual meeting of the International Advisory Body for Subsea Cable Resilience, being formed in partnership with the IT. So over to you, Ken, to tell us about what is happening in the subsea resilience space.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I realize I am the final speaker of the day, and I will keep my remarks brief. But I thought it'd be helpful to share a little bit of information about what the International Cable Protection Committee is, what it is working on, and of course, what we are working with the CTU and others on in connection with the International Advisory Body on Submarine Cable Resilience. In addition to my law firm job, I am the appointed legal advisor for the International Cable Protection Committee and have been involved in its work for nearly 20 years. So with that, I will share my screen here. And
we're seeing it.
Yep. Okay. All right. So the ICPC, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is the world's leading organization devoted to submarine cable protection and resilience. It's a non-governmental organization, although it has government observers as well. And so we spend a lot of time working globally through members with governments, international organizations, and other marine industries to try to identify and mitigate the risks of damage to cables, both natural and human, develop recommendations and best practices for industry and governments to follow throughout the cable project lifecycle, promote scientific research regarding cables in the marine environment, obviously a big consideration in light of the BBNJ agreement, and promote the rule of law for the oceans. And so we represent the industry in a variety of international bodies, including the International Seabed, the UNCLOS and BBNJ treaty processes, and many UN agencies. We have more than 235 members from more than 75 countries, including cable operators, owners, manufacturers, and industry service providers, as well as government observers. So as we see it, there are certain prerequisites for submarine cable protection and resilience that we're trying to educate stakeholders about and promote. Submarine cables are both an old technology and a cutting-edge one. They've existed since the telegraph era in the 1850s, and they are unusual in that they are fixed infrastructure, long-term infrastructure on the seabed in areas of jurisdiction, in areas beyond national jurisdiction, and areas of multiple coastal states' jurisdictions. And so this creates a complicated legal and regulatory environment. And obviously, as the oceans become more crowded places, there's a lot more to account for. And so we are seeking to promote cooperation at the national, regional, and multilateral levels because there is no global regulator for submarine cables. That is not something that the ITU treaties provide for or that the ITU is engaged in. There is certain T-sector activity with certain standards, but unlike with satellites in terms of orbital slots and spectrum, the ITU does not play that function with submarine cables. And so it's really relying on treaty provisions in the Law of the Sea Convention and elsewhere to try to promote and protect submarine cables. And so regulatory certainty is really critical given the reliance on this international legal framework. And so there's a need for everyone to have a better understanding of how important cables are, their technical and environmental characteristics, the importance of cooperation even within the industry itself, and then with the risks. And there's a need for a lot more information sharing than there already is, and awareness of the importance of the Law of the Sea Convention. Just briefly here, I've listed some of the principal risks and threats to submarine cables. If you were looking at the news right now, you'd think that everything relating to cable damage is due to malicious actions of governments and speculation about what's going on in the Baltic Sea, although we don't actually really know exactly what's happened with each of those incidents thus far. But most damage to cables is much more mundane. About 70% of it annually globally is due to fishing gear and vessel anchors. And those are activities that governments and industries can do a lot about. There are a host of other natural and human activities and uncoordinated human activities that can contribute to cable damage. And so we work globally to try to address these. And if it seems like I'm skipping through these slides quickly, I'm happy to work with the CTU Secretariat to make these available for those of you who would like them for reference, since we're short on time today. The industry isn't simply waiting for governments to do something about cable protection. Cable protection starts with the design of the system and trying to find the most commercially desirable and efficient route, and then modifying it to try to mitigate risk. And so cable protection goes into the design phase at the earliest stages, trying to ensure that there is a useful but also safe route for the cable. And then there are a variety of activities that the industry undertakes after the system enters into service in order to protect it. Cables are shown on nautical charts. There's been some discussion about, isn't that a risk? There's no way to hide cables. If bad actors want to find them, they can. But fishermen and vessel captains and crew need to know where cables are so that they're not damaging them with fishing gear and with anchors. And so there's a lot of other activity that goes into stakeholder liaison and education with those industries, use of automatic identification and vessel identification systems, separating marine activities to the extent that they can be separated, and engaging in marine spatial planning, having crossing agreements with other industries, particularly with oil and gas facilities, but also now with offshore wind, with turbine towers and with transmission lines back to shore. And then in the event of damage, there's a claims process and potential deterrence there. And of course, there's a need for robust physical and cybersecurity measures. So the industry can do a lot, but industry can't do everything. And so it needs the cooperation and assistance of individual governments and regional organizations all working together. And with this in mind, the ICPC launched, at my behest in 2021, some of its best thinking about what governments might do to enhance cable protection and resilience. And so this is not a required checklist or a mandate, but it's some of our best thinking or wish list that can be adapted to regional and national circumstances. But it articulates some general principles about a holistic approach to risks, the need for transparent regulatory regimes that foster installation or repair, promote rule of law for the oceans, industry consultation, use of best available science, and engagement with other states on a regional and global basis. And it contains a second component that has some specific recommendations, starting with measures to address the principal risk statistically from fishing and anchoring, and a variety of other activities. I'm not going to read all of these now. But all of this is factoring in now to the work that we are doing and partnering with the ITU, with the International Advisory Body on Submarine Cable Resilience, which is a mouthful, so we call it either the Advisory Body or the IAB. And so this is a multi-stakeholder organization with government, industry, and academic representatives. And we're seeking to work within that to promote best practices for submarine cable protection and resilience, focusing on timely licensing, deployment and repair of cables, risk mitigation to reduce damage, and to enhance submarine cable resilience and continuity of communications, even if there's damage to an individual submarine cable, so that communications can continue to flow over alternative facilities. And throughout, we're looking to develop further cooperation. And so our hope is that this will help to amplify some of our initial work with ICPC's best practices, but also extend the scope and reach of this work. And so our first virtual meeting was held in December 2024, and we're going to hold our first in-person summit of the advisory body in Abuja, Nigeria in February, so not far off. And here I've just made note of some additional resources that the ICPC makes available, publications on its website addressing environmental issues. The recommendations are more industry facing. And then in 2009, and working with the UN Environment Program, WCMC, we had launched a report looking at submarine cables in the marine environment. We will be launching a successor report with UNEP WCMC later this year. It's actually a draft of it in my inbox to work on later today. So with that, I will finish my comments. And I should note, we have members from the Caribbean, from industry. We welcome additional members and also government observers from the region and further collaboration with the CTU itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kent Bressie, for that presentation, a brief summary of what's taking place. I take it you'll be in Nigeria for the summit?
I will be. I, along with Thomas Lamanauskas from Lamanauskas, have to pronounce his name properly, the Deputy Secretary General from the ITU. The two of us serve as the co-executive secretaries for the advisory body. So we will be doing a lot more work with this.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. I look forward to meeting you there and to continuing some discussions around our own resilience here in the region.
Likewise.
I saw regulars and off again. Not sure.
Yeah, well, we are beyond the time. So, and I know it's been a marathon session. Like I said, this is just Q1 activities so far, and these two critical issues we wanted to update our stakeholders on with respect to satellites and submarine cables. So we're completely out of time, and I want to thank all of our participants today, all the presenters, all the persons, our stakeholders who joined us online and stayed the course to the end. Those who couldn't stay for the full session, we understand it's been a long session and some conflicting meetings. So thanks for your continued interest. We will make all of the presentations available, all the ones that we have. I hope you do have all. And I want to thank Maria as well for providing a summary thus far of the discussions. So without further ado, we'll bring the meeting to a close. And again, wish you all the best for 2025. We look forward to working with you to advance the interests of the Caribbean. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.
Yes, bye everybody.